Welcome back, everyone. We are joined by someone who's no stranger to the analyst desk. Crepo, welcome back.
Good to be back.
Good to be back, warming up the seat once again, and good to have the elephant off of your, or the monkey off your back, I should say, of the elephant in the room here. Getting the losses out, stop the bleeding. How's the mentality of the team now? You guys must be up and up.
Yeah, well, we went 0-2 yesterday. Really bad first performance. A better second game, at least for the viewers, against TSM. And then this game was better again, so hopefully we can continue that trend. We still have like plenty of issues to work on. I'm personally not really happy with the way I played this game, but my team played really good, so we won.
All right, so let's start talking about the beginning of this game. You know, champion select. A lot of people are expecting like everyone to just dump bans into hot shot, but you guys leave up the Nidalee. Was that sort of a bait to get him to pick Nidalee so Pobelter could have an aggressive Kha'Zix pick, or what was going on with that idea there? I
mean, hotshot is really new to the mid lane role. Let's face it. Like he should be going toe to toe at the maximum with like an established mid laner, and we rather hit the bot lane from CLG. We saw like any first pick in both series, even with the traditional counter Leona up, and Jinx being picked. And Jinx is such an ugly champion to play against because in late game somebody's gonna die on each side, and Jinx will get the reset and we'll start rolling. So we wanted to get Jinx out and the Annie out, and then we picked the Thresh, which in my opinion has a very favorable laning phase against Leona. And yeah, they swapped. We kind of thinking whether they would swap or not, but we ended up going bottom, and standard 2v1s happened.
Let's talk about a few more picks. Inox has been receiving a little bit of flack for his choice of champions, his choice of builds. What is it? We've heard it's a team decision for these choices.
Yeah, that's a good point. I want to point that out to everyone. Like, why is he playing these squishy champions and not the standard tank meta? Because that's what's been working for us in scrims. Like traditionally, like we were sometimes really far behind in bottom, and then Inox would just play these like soft champions, like not so tanky, but really carry champions, and he would just go to town on the enemy top laner and then spill over that lead in the other areas. And this is a team decision. If we want one champion picked, we pick him together. We're all talking about it, so there's no point on singling out Inox and saying, oh my god, if only he played that tank champion, because it's very detrimental to a new player in the scene, because obviously the more experienced players, me, Snoopy, and Yellowpete, will be calling more of those pick shots rather than him.
And how is that? Do those guys look up to you, you know, when it came in, the 3 and the 2? Was there any of that separation, or was it just a full 5?
We just really meshed well together.
Cool.
I mean, everybody gets along. They're both very calm players, and they listen very well to advice, and then chime in when they have like a counter advice.
I actually want to talk about that a little bit more, because Inox and Snoopy this game seemed like they had some great synergy. What was the communication like? I know you were down in bottom lane, but the top lane and jungle really got rolling very early in this game.
Yeah, based on the way we played our early game, I thought Mundo actually got ahead of Shyvana there because our 2v1 happened a little better. We started duo jungling immediately with Tyson, and then when Shyvana came to lane, he missed like an entire wave under the tower, was level 1 for a long time. Then the Drake fight happened that we'll go into later, I imagine. And then he was just so far ahead. And then he was going into a massive wave was coming Yen's way. And Snoopy just said like, well, let's just mess that up for him. And then they killed him. And they were like, well, he's going to come back because he needs to come back. Let's kill him again. And meanwhile, bottom we had Caitlyn Thresh. It's as safe as it gets. So we were fine. I mean, they took our tower after a long time. They even dove us once, but didn't match up against what Snoopy and Tyson were doing up top.
And let's actually bring that Drake fight up right now. Let's talk about it, because we're just talking about control, and this completely leads it into it. We'll bring the dragon fight up on your screen. You guys took control of this dragon fight and didn't let go for the rest of the game. What was really the idea behind this before we started?
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons why we were in slightly better position. We were pushing out bottom. We had a little bit better push with Thresh and Caitlyn on the tower. Both our Mundo and our Olaf were basically duo jungling for a while, getting in the necessary levels in case we just tied it up. Both teams take the same tower. But then we had a decision. Either we go for the next tower, or we take the first tower, push it in, and fall back onto Drake. And that's what we do. And we knew we could win that fight if we rolled a creep like here, because we had a teleport going. So we start that Drake. We backed out initially because they came too close, but we decided to turn. I get caught a little bit, but I try to just keep him busy and off my carries. And then Tyson comes in the back. Pretty much solos double lift immediately. And that's like, I just had to watch that fight. He's soloing hotshot and double lift in the back, and that's why we win that fight. We had really good shot calling, turned on targets, killed Yen, kill hotshot right there, and it's pretty much sealed the deal.
Really, at what point in this game were you guys able to shake any kind of momentum, the weight, or not momentum, the weight that was on your shoulders from games past here, 0-2?
Pretty much this dragon fight. I mean, the lanes, we had a little bit of a back and forth. I wanted to counter swap to meet them 2v2 on top, and then they were like, yeah, we're not sure, let's just do standard. But we still won out. We went for Drake. We backed out in time, maybe slightly too late. They had a good engage on us, but we had a TP in the back. And once like Mundo can stick to the back line early level 3 and 4, they really can't get away. And then I just died. I still got my flay off, and my team just one by one picked them off.
And this Tyson guy you keep giving credit to is Inox.
Inox, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, we're on a first-name basis because we're in a team together.
Very good, showing the synergy. So I want to ask you now, since you do sort of have a history with Double Lift here on the analyst desk, how do the bragging rights sort of go in those bottom lane matchups? Are you going to burn him a little bit after this, or do you let it slide?
I don't know. I mean, like, we won, so that's a point for me. But I tried to Mad Life him twice, which is where you try to predict the Arcane Shift into a hook. And I failed twice, so let's just call it even. I didn't land too many hooks this game, so I don't think I get to brag too much.
All right, so here's kind of a 2-in-1 for you. What was it for you coming into the North American LCS? Obviously, this is your first time playing in the Challenger Series in the LCS over here. And how do you guys expect to stay consistent?
We actually had no idea. I mean, how are we gonna do? As everybody knew, we started off rather like shaky in scrims. Had a really good 3-0 against Determined Gaming. Got into the LCS. 0-2 start. Our counterpart in Europe went 0-4. People were like, yeah, what the hell are these guys actually doing here? But we're improving. Like, we've identified our mistakes. It's really fun playing here as well. We know all the teams, and the crowd is like really vivid. It's like really good atmosphere here. So shout out to the crowd. Definitely keep that up. And yeah, we'll just fix all our issues one by one.
Yeah, because they keep shouting your name. Yeah. You're happy with the crowd. Like, yeah, I love this crowd.
I love this crowd. They shout my name. Why not?
All right, Crab. Well, thanks for joining us back on the analyst desk, and best of luck to EG and the rest of the split.
Thanks.
All right, everyone. We're going to send it over to Freakin' Jat at the caster's desk. Take it away, gentlemen.
Riv, thank you very much, and it is time now for our 5th match of the day, Coast versus Dignitas. And historically, Coast hasn't been doing so well against these guys. 6-2 in Dig's favor throughout Season 3.
Yeah, I mean, Coast has done quite well, I think, in the past year. They looked good yesterday as well, but they kind of fell victim to a series of unfortunate events against Curse. They got the Baron stolen away from them, then they had Shifter die in the mid lane, and then it just snowballed. They lost the game within a couple minutes of that happening.
Yeah, pretty rough then. Of course, Dignitas, so we've seen them, and they've had a rough start to the season as well. They got outclassed by TSM in their first game today.
Yeah, that was the fastest loss we've had so far in this early LCS season. Very, very quick. Dignitas needs to almost, normally you want to say, oh, we've got to learn from our losses. When you lose that badly, you kind of just got to forget about some of them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a mentality to come into this game with. That is a lot to recover from Dignitas.
We'll see if they can do it. Now, guys, every team has their own secret to victory, and we'll see if Kiwi Pie have the right moves to pull off a win against Coast.
Bot lane relies on 2 people, the AD and the support. If you don't have synergy, it just turns into a not very good lane. Like when we're like on, it's like a dance kinda, and he's my tango partner.
Yeah, we're just tangoing around, we're dancing on them, we're killing them, we're converging on them, we're backing off on the junglers there. We're hoping to learn how to ballad. We're having a lot of trouble on slow play.
Yeah, we can do like the fast, like samba aggressive stuff. But when it comes to like just taking it nice and slow, it's like,
ballads are hard.
Yeah, I'd like to think that I bring like the excitement to the lane. You never know what's happening now.
We're yellers. We're screamers.
We don't even yell about anything that's like hyped up or anything. We're just like yelling to yell.
We're just animals.
Guys, I got a minion kill, yes! Yeah. That's what I would do every LCS game. I would put Zuna to shame.
Typically, you need good communication first, and then you can start yelling about random things.
Nope.
They gotta start showing results. I'm gonna be honest. They can be as happy as they want to be. Friends are forever, but sometimes winning is important.
Yeah, winning is only, you got 28 games to do it. You got to make it happen. Now let's check out the starting lineups, guys. On the blue side is Team Coast. Zion Spartan in the top lane, Nintendo X in the jungle, Shifter in mid, Wiz Fujin on AD carry, and Daydreamin' on support.
And of course on the red side, we have Dignitas looking to pick up their first win. Top lane is Cruiser, jungle is Crumbs, mid lane is Scara, AD carry of course is I'm a Cutie Pie, with his tango partner Kiwi Kid on support.
So the Kiwi Pie lane, I mean, these guys are, I really like Cutie Pie as an AD carry. I think we've seen actually a couple of converted supports in even just like the last 6 months. So like Yellow Star went from AD carry to support. Afterme did the exact same thing for CLG. You've got Kiwi Kid doing the same thing here. And generally speaking, they tend to work out pretty well. I'm trying to think of like failed support conversions, and they tend to work out.
Think about that as well. It's the role that you're most likely to see someone try and convert into. I would say the best supports generally are not ones that convert into it, though.
Yeah.
Whenever we're swapped, they kind of cap out as like 4th or 5th best support, it seems. I'm actually really surprised with the Dignitas lineup how they haven't tried any unconventional stuff with Kiwi Kid. Knowing that he is picking up a new role anyway, why not kind of roll the dice and do something different? But what they're trying to do is hasn't been working out for them.
Yeah.
See if they keep going for it.
Well, way back in the day on Rock Solid, I remember you were a part of that. You guys used to do some really crazy things way
we had
back
Locust
in the
play
day.
Gangplank support, but that was because he didn't know how to play supports. But he didn't know how to play Gangplank.
You can press Q and click the enemy champions.
Yeah, those were fast bans, though.
Oh,
dear.
man. Renekton and Gragas, Shyvana removed from Dignitas, LeBlanc, Cassidy, and Ziggs all the way from Coast. A lot of those, well, heck, all of them aimed at Shifter.
Way more mid lane bans than we're used to seeing, which means there were no support bans and no jungle bans generally. And yeah, not surprising to see Elise gunned down right away. That's an Intended X jungler. He far and away thinks 2 junglers are better than the rest of them by a long shot, and that's Elise and Olaf.
Yeah, I'm sad to not see him go for Olaf because while a less famous player, Olaf was his main go-to champion. Way back then, he used to go 21 utility just for cooldown reduction, so he could throw more axes.
Yeah,
that was Intended X style jungling. So
back in the day,
going for the Elise though, of course, more fast picks coming through as well. Jinx Annie, pick of the litter for the entire lane. Dignitas, their Tango is going to be Jinx Annie.
Yeah, to go into this a little more, this is the 3.15 patch. It's not the patch that is on live right now. So there is a couple of nerfs that haven't hit yet that make this lane stronger. The early stun for Annie is still 1.75 seconds. And also the arm time for the traps, which in layman's terms is how quickly they will stun someone after Jinx puts them down. For the Flame Chompers is shorter on this patch, which means they can chain 2 of them together and basically create what is a hyper carry lane also into a kill lane, which is why they like picking it so much.
Yeah, it's the same lane we saw, I believe it was CLG use that did so well against Cloud9. We've seen this power come through a lot. Now, Coast, second time in a row, going for Varus again here for WizFusion. Also, the Thresh coming through here, so they saw the lane and said, all right, we'll counteract it with this.
Already a lot of crowd control coming down for Coast. This is something that unlocks Shifter and Zion Spartan to run things without nearly as much crowd control.
Yeah.
Generally, the way Coast likes to play... We'll get to that Wukong pick in a second. The way Coast likes to play is since they have Varus now, it allows Shifter more roaming opportunities for kills because the bottom lane itself will provide the crowd control and he can get fed off of that. He can pick almost pure damage if he wants to now.
Yeah, and speaking of which, the Riven, speaking of pure damage, the Riven of Zion Spartan has gone unbanned in this game as well. So a lot of the high priority damage picks still available for these guys. Of course, Wukong and Dr. Mundo locked in here, most likely top Mundo. And is that jungle or mid Wukong?
That's yet to be seen. It could be a mid Wukong, but I'd expect it to be seen in the jungle. Crumbs had actually most of his success last year when Xin Zhao was in, I found, that and Jarvan. And you can build them a little bit similar to Wukong, at least with a bit of damage early if you so choose.
Yeah.
I've seen success, a lot of St. Vicious in solo queue, and streaming has done that. Also, I Will Dominate one with it in the promotion tournament. I generally think he's a highly underused jungler.
Yeah, I think he's a whole lot of fun as well. And here we go, the next 2 picks for Coast coming through. And as you said, they are high damage picks here. The Kale for potentially the mid lane, and Yasuo also picked up, knowing the lane matchups.
Yasuo was a good lane matchup against Mundo. He's very strong at level 1 and 2, and then Mundo doesn't necessarily get strong enough by the time Yasuo can build some items. Would not be surprised if we see Zion Spartan with top lane Yasuo there, and a very squishy lineup, which can be augmented by the crowd control from Varus and the invulnerability from the Kale intervention.
Yeah, and if they get really tricky with it, you can dodge things with Repel. For what it's worth, extra style points there in the wind wall. But Dignitas still looking for their last pick right here. Hovering Karthus.
Would he do that? Yes, he would.
Karthus. Now it could...
Lots of AoE damage.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
Yeah, big AoE teamfight team here. I'm like almost second guessing myself. Like, is it top lane Karthus? Are they pulling a Quas
Is
here?
it jungle Karthus?
I actually want to see jungle Karthus.
I know, it's
Vector Wraith is really good right now.
I agree. Jungle Karthus is good.
No one's playing it.
Soon we will see it. Maybe in Challenger, because those guys seem a little bit more likely to do the crazy stuff.
Yeah.
This team composition for Dignitas, though, is extremely AoE heavy. I think if they can escape the laning phase, they're going to be fairly strong in team fights. But this is a hard lane. They cannot fall behind as much as they did like against TSM. Otherwise, it's going to be over before it started.
There we go. You saw the lineup on your screen real quick. And before we get into the game anymore, the teams are loading. Let's check in with who you guys thought was going to win on LOL Esports. And according to you guys, 56% of you think Dignitas is going to get their first win of the spring split and leave Coast without one.
Yeah, that is a very close fan vote, I'd have to say. Dignitas, after that 22-minute loss to TSM, needs a confidence builder. EG just had a confidence builder as well. You know, all of these games early on matter because the early positioning does a lot to a team's mentality. And Dignitas has had some mentality problems in the past. I feel like Skara is either playing great or he loses his confidence and he just starts looking terrible. And he's been in a bit of a funk lately, and he really just needs to get his confidence back more than anything because we know he has the capabilities to be a top mid lane player.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, these guys are facing each other. You know, both teams who could use some confidence boosting games. Both these teams without wins right now. So if you're going to win against someone, you might as well be a team with a 0 in the win column. Yeah. And kind of ups your chances, I feel like. Statistically, they're likely to lose.
Statistically, what?
Statistically, the opposing team is likely to lose, so you're more likely to win. That's how that works, right?
Why is the opposing team more likely to lose? I don't understand.
It's science.
It's a 50-50.
It's not really science.
You can't just say science and make it true.
Yes, I can. It's how it works. Here we go, guys. Coast loading into the game on the blue team. Zion Spartan is going to be top lane Yasuo here. Nintendo jungling the Elise. And Shifters that mid lane Kale. Watching Dignitas walk their way out. Yep, Jungle Wukong, you called that one right, Crumbs. Gonna have a fun time dashing around here. Here we go. People walking up to the river. Haven't seen this before.
Okay, so very early on in the game, Dignitas has to be careful not to lose control of everything, in a sense. Early on in the game, while Karthus can shove, he is vulnerable to Kale fighting. Also, Yasuo is an extremely strong level 1 and 2 laner, meaning that Zion Spartan can push Cruiser the Bruiser in the top lane. And the biggest thing they have to worry about is that Wukong's early jungle is mainly just about survival, and Elise is an extremely strong counter jungler. So combined, Coast has the potential of pushing in both of their solo lanes and then going and trying to kill or disrupt Crumbs' jungle. If that happens, it's going to be very difficult for Dignitas to pull off any sort of game plan because they have a very open early game vulnerability that I think Coast is going to try and exploit.
All right, guys, let's track Nintendo's progress and the solo lanes then. The 2-on-2, of course. Dignitas got their first pick on that one. We probably expect Dignitas to have a better time there in the bottom side. Zion Spartan, an aggressive ward up in the upper tri-brush. Nintendo going to be starting, looks like, his own blue buff here with help from Zion. So Coast sending their duo lane down bottom early to get the first shove. And actually, Dignitas looking for a lane swap here.
Lane swapping isn't that bad of an idea here. What this also allows them to do is defend Crumbs' red buff if they want to. Because now it's not about getting the soul. They only lose the one solo lane in the mid, and Skara can still peel back a little bit for a support, and they will most likely outnumber if they decide to go for an invade. So a good positioning early on in the game by Dignitas, and it's going to make it much harder, if not impossible, for Nintendo decks to disrupt Crumbs' early jungle.
And a random thought here as well as we look at how these guys are doing things. Zion Spartan went back into the jungle to go share experience and gold with Nintendo, seeing that it was a 2v1 lane. Nintendo also started Q on Elise, which I haven't ever seen from a jungle Elise.
You usually see W.
Yeah, and I trust him on it. Maybe it was a misclick, but I'm surprised to see that. Nintendo, though, back to his own devices here, starting his own red. And we might see these junglers go for these standard 3-on-1 plays.
There's going to be, I think there's going to be a little bit of lane pushing. If we see more of it, it's probably from Coast, because Elise can offer the ranged pushing. And what we're also seeing is we're seeing the top laners double team the jungle a little bit with their friends here. It's mainly because this is just what teams have to do nowadays. Since teams have gotten so good at 3-man diving or 3-man pushing, there's not even really a point of sticking around and doing it.
Oh,
maybe.
Man, look at this from Coast, though. They've sent everyone to the bottom side of the map. Is this really a 4-on-1 dive?
It would be. I mean, Zion Spartan's level 1, though, so he'd really just be there to watch. There's no way Cruiser is going to let that happen. It was a good ward he had over in the tri-brush, and this just means it's going to be a fast push by both teams. I wonder how deep Coach is going to try and go with this, or if they're going to try and get a dragon shortly after. They ran out of minions, though.
Yeah, well, Dignitas have their 3-man dive here in the top lane. Cutie about to hit level 3. You're going to see this duo lane hit basically 3, 3, and 3 on all these guys right there. Minions dying on this side of the map. It looks like Coast will just barely get the turret first, but these guys are trading turrets so far. But Cruiser level 3 to Zion's 2. I gotta say, that's a bit of a lead for Dignitas at the very least.
Yeah, very, very minor. It's hard to tell early on in these lane swap games. Now it's since Dignitas swapped top, this is Coast's way of trying to get something back in the bottom. But we've seen multiple trades here. Wild Turtle was talking about it as well. how beneficial is a super early dragon, which is worth diminished gold from the last season, versus some damage on the second turret. Dignitas is going for the second turret, whereas Coast is just going for the dragon, and they're going to get it for sure.
Yeah, Daydream doing a nice job of dancing the dragon aggro, and there we go. Dragon goes down. Kill credit goes over to WizFusion for 25 bonus gold right here. But Dignitas are staying in that lane. Half HP on this turret. And I believe, the second tier turrets don't get that bonus armor that you get for the first few minutes of the game.
No, it's just the outer turrets.
Yeah.
This is also the last patch in which the top and middle turrets won't have just almost a super Doran shield of sorts, 20 damage reduction from champion auto attacks. The bottom lane will not have that, so it's going to be more of a choice for teams. I actually do like the change, even though it's come under a lot of criticism from some sources.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the Korean fans actually like the change.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be much more interesting, seeing that there's more of a cost for Dignitas there, because really what just happened there is, even though they were the two-man top lane, they actually got more out of it because Coast tried to do the counter and take the dragon.
Yep.
Coast wasn't able to push a second turret. What they theoretically should have done to stay even is just continue pushing, and we would have seen 2 turrets for 2.
So the game accelerating a little bit. A lot of structures dead. No champions just yet. And we're seeing Dignitas make a rotation to the mid lane here. QtPie joining Skara, who actually, to be fair, Skara's done a very good job in this lane that we thought might have been scary. Junglers were tied up doing other things, and Skara's got a minion kill lead over Shifter. And the push now to the mid lane using Jinx. QtPie not going back to base just yet either, and the Flame Chompers as well helping to push Shifter back. So,
well, Shifter went over to help the top lane a little bit, and look out Nintendo, backing in a bad spot.
Stunned and ignited. He's going to be going down unless he can get to the Lantern, and he cannot. First blood picked up there for Kiwi Kid, and his tango partner was actually Wukong there. I feel like QtPie might be jealous.
Yeah, that was a smart roam by Dignitas right there. The expected move was for them to go all the way to the bottom lane and start pushing. Instead, they roamed and found some kills in the mid lane. So very smart tactical maneuvering there by Dignitas.
And it's going to give them a bit of a kill lead, 1-0, and of course the gold as well in their favor here. And they're actually just staying in this mid lane. QtPie just now making his way across the map. Neither AD carry actually having spent time to buy. So they're sitting on no real items, but WizFusion has been sitting there killing minions for the entire time. He's at 50 so far. He's got to be rich.
He's freezing the lane right now, which has cost his team a little bit in map pressure, but has individually helped him. That's the trade-off. You can see why Dignitas QtPie's CS is so low. It's because he was pushing 2 turrets with his team, where they were just pushing the minion wave down as quickly as possible and not caring about CS. And then because he generated the kill in the mid lane. We'll see which one is more effective. I'd like to think that QtPie's has been, but now they're going to go into a lane, and once WizFusion shops, they're going to have to deal with a bit of a gold discrepancy.
Yeah, temporarily, QtPie is going to be the better one off here. Has boots and a Vamp Scepter against Golden Pockets, which doesn't have any combat stats, unfortunately, for Coast here. His mid laners still kind of trading apart. They have bought some items, though, so Scar with the sustain. And there's a giant wave here at the top turret. Well, Nintendo and Zion Spartan pressure Cruiser here. He's not level 6, but he's got an Annie, I should say, right behind him.
Yeah, Kiwi Kid's doing his own thing this game. He hasn't necessarily been near QtPie. They're hoping that Coast dives. He's waiting just outside of the Fog of War. I don't think Coast is taking the bait, though.
Not going to go for it whatsoever. Knock up on a Cruiser, not a huge deal right there. And Dignitas.
He took the cannon minion.
What a jerk.
Cheeky little Kiwi Kid. Not for you.
You're not a top laner anymore, Kiwi Kid. That's not yours.
It's true.
You're a support. You don't get gold.
He has the Doran's Ring as well as the Sightstone. I mean, he kind of took that kill gold and is trying to turn it into some offensive itemization. Still no gold per 10 item on him. I'm a little surprised by that. I would think that he would go for a bit more gold.
There's a few players who go that way. I want to say Crepo doesn't buy.
Well, Crepo definitely doesn't, but especially with a kill. I always loved back when Philosopher's Stone and Heart of Gold were a thing, for those of you that remember the good old days.
RIP Heart of Gold.
Yeah. Every time I get a couple kills on a jungler, I'd want to build them as quickly as possible. Because the sooner you can start investing in the gold per 10 items, the more valuable they become. They're kind of a snowball item of sorts in that sense. But instead, Kiwi Kid went for immediate damage. He opted against the economic investment strategy, and he's going for immediate gratification.
Right, so, going for the ward output. Why the heck not? Let's see what he goes for this one. So far, Dignitas actually on a bit of a freeze themselves in the bottom lane. We'll see if QtPie can catch up in minion kills here, because WizFujin now with a BF sword in his inventory and a dragon in about a minute and a half. There's potentially room here for Coast to make a play off of that. The stinger here for Shifter as well. He's sitting in the mid lane farming. We're at a bit of a lull as we wait for the teams to regroup for something.
Yeah, Coast will have the exact timer on the next dragon, but they also don't have the teleport down that they would want. Luckily for them, if Zion Spartan decides to roam down for that next dragon, it's not like he's going to be leaving a turret to Dr. Mundo's devices, because they've lost every turret in that lane. I would expect Coast to try and group down for this dragon and fight Dignitas head on.
At 45 seconds right now, Zion jumping over the wall for the white camp here. Just still getting the farm. He's basically in farm mode. Zion Spartan just wants money. Coast shows back up in the bottom lane with still a 20-something minion kill lead, with the wave pushing in towards their turret. Skara on the roam down as well. They look like they want to get ready for this one.
This is going to be a really crucial point in the game for Dignitas, because I think their team fight is really strong, and they have the potential to control the dragon, especially with that skill down.
Pretty much everything missed there. Crumbs shows up. There's the Requiem as well, but it's not going to land on much. Nintendude dodges every single second of the Cyclone, but still has nowhere to go. Lantern's not going to save him either. Nice try by Daydreamin', and the chase is on. Flame Charmers, they land just barely on Daydreamin'. Tibbers shows up to the party as well. Double kill here for I'm a Cutie Pie, 3-0, and they're not even done. Crumb's going to dive the turret as well. The rocket comes through, and look at that one, 3-0 instead.
Huge moves for Dignitas right there. Coast was actually trying to set up a team fight so that they could get the dragon, but Dignitas was one step ahead of the game, and they turned it around with a counter gank pretty much of their own. They have the stronger team fight. Look at all the AoE spells they were able to use in that, and Scar was able to participate even though he was in the mid lane. Let's take a look at this one more time. With the Chain of Corruption missing, it was just an easy start for Coast. They have 3.5 people. Even though Nintendo Dex kind of escaped the Cyclone, he went in the wrong direction and couldn't quite make it. Since I'm a Cutie Pie got excited from the Jinx passive, they could just completely chase him down. That's the unnerfed arm time on the Flame Chompers, catching the Thresh, and gives them the kills they needed.
Well played overall, and even to save him the ultimate too. I like the patience by Cutie Pie to know that he was going to kill these champions and save the ulti for when he needed it. But interestingly enough, Coast are actually the guys who get control over Dragon. Dig invested in the turret kills and a recall instead.
Yeah, Dig opted for the turrets, gave the Dragon to Coast. We'll see how that pans out. Considering WizFusion was just freezing the lane anyway, I don't know if I completely agree with that decision by Dignitas, but it's one they're going to have to live with. They are still up 2,000 gold, and they have now taken 3 turrets to 1. So maybe their building advantage will have its own benefits.
Well, I mean, you look at Dignitas, and they certainly got the advantage as far as their AD carry is concerned. Already the Bloodthirster completed for Cutie Pie, despite the prior lane freeze by WizFusion, right? The selfish benefit he was going for that you talked about. Dig got more team objectives, and their AD carry still got ahead here. And look at this, the mid lane actually left open as well, and Crumbs is coming around behind. Nintendude, oh, good KO, but that might not be enough. Another, oh my gosh, well played there by Coast. He does survive. Oh, Shifter, no!
Shifter,
scumbag!
He dodged out of reflex, I feel like. You see a giant rocket coming towards you, your first thought isn't to just go into it. Nintendude was unable to dodge it out of reflex, and the home run there from I'm a Cutie Pie.
Nice shot right there. So, Cutie Pie 3-0-1. Only 70 minions, but why get minions when you can kill champions? Zion back to the top lane, almost static Shiv. Sunfire, though, already done for Cruiser. It seems like at level 9 now, of course, his matchup's going to be really about itemization more than anything else.
Yeah, with Sunfire Cape being completed for Cruiser, I feel like Zion Spartan is pretty much just in farm mode. But as far as Yasuo goes, he has escaped the laning phase as well as he can. Scar could not escape the laning phase in the previous game against Bjergsen, and neither could ManCloud, actually. It hasn't been a good day for Yasuo. Zion Spartan is doing better than most, though.
Yeah, he's actually got a slight, at least 4, minion kill lead over his lane opponent. Took a trade right there and chewed through Cruiser's ultimate and stayed more or less alive through it. Burned his Ignite for that. But now they're just equal on combat summoners. Let's see where we go here. So Coast, they've actually rotated themselves back down to the mid lane. I'm a Cutie Pie actually alone in the bottom lane right here, farming up his BT. WizFusion's got his Bloodthirster done as well. So these guys
waiting. They're trying to get the pickoffs right now. They have a few pink wards inside their jungle.
Uh-oh.
Look out. They could really change some good stuff here.
This is going to be all kinds of painful. Scar gets the kill credit on one. Nice play from Daydreamin', but I think it's not going to be enough for him. Crumbs picks that one up as well. 2 more for Dignitas, and they're making some nice moves in the mid game.
And Coast has really lost control. They were trying to set up a gank of their own against Amundo, but the patience of Crumbs actually to get the auto attack and the Q before any of his other spells let him maximize his damage. The armor shred on the Wukong Q just allowed his Cyclone to do even more damage there, chained with the stun of Kiwi Kid, who has been roaming a whole bunch this game. Both those things making a pretty big impact.
He's been part of 6 of his team's 7 kills. The only guy who's ahead of him on that one is Crumbs with 7 of 7. So those two have been doing a heck of a lot to make the game happen here. And PewDiePie, with his support leaving him, completely fine. Never died on a no-escape champion.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's because Coast hasn't been able to make any aggressive plays towards them. The few times they've tried to get up in I'm a PewDiePie's grill, they've been counterattacked by even more people from Dignitas. I think the early game vulnerability of Dignitas has been easily surpassed here. They did the lane swap at the start of the game, which allowed Skara to shove up the lane and get a slight edge on Shifter. So Skara hasn't been pressed and has always been able to assist with Requiem in these fights.
Yeah.
Additionally, you could see that I'm a PewDiePie hasn't really needed Kiwi Kid as a support, and it's allowed Kiwi Kid to roam around and be a part of 6 of the 7 Dignitas kills. It's really Kiwi Kid's roaming and Skara's ability to participate with his Requiem that have given them this huge edge.
And speaking of more big edges, and just sort of the other stories in the game, Kiwi Kid, we talked about how he's been investing his gold. So he picked up Boots of Mobility, got the Distortion enchant for more flashes, and he finally did pick up some gold pretend with the Nomad's Medallion. So he is investing so heavily in a very successful future where Daydreamin's just like, well, I'm 0-2-0 and not having the best time of this one.
Yep.
Zion's part, I think, is the only guy who's, I guess Zion and Shift are the only guys going really untouched in this game. Well, we said it, this champ sort of unlocked the Coast solo lanes.
Yeah.
They're at least doing well, but I feel like they need more than this.
And there's always that danger when you pick such a low tank team that when you fall behind, no one can think about getting the fight started. Because now that Dignitas is tanked up a little bit, at least in the top lane from Cruiser, when that team fight phase does start, it might be hard for them to actually reach the back line. Against someone like Skara, who, as we talked about in the team composition earlier when Curse actually ran a Karthus, just having a farmed Karthus makes it much more difficult for the squishy people who dive to make things happen.
Watch out, Zion Spartan. The team is coming to try to kill you. Can you do enough damage to Cruiser before you die? Because basically all that's going to happen. Flashes and tries to dash through, but there's so many people to go for. Oh my god, Zion Spartan! Are you serious? Taking one down with him.
Spectacular play there by Zion Spartan. His E on Yasuo, the sweeping blade, does go up in damage the more you use it, and he got a max damage one there.
All right, well, Scar popping the exhaust on Shifter over the top of the slow, and forced to flash as well. So Shifter just burning the ignite, but taking away 2 summoners.
Yeah, and that was with a 2-level disadvantage that Shifter was able to do that to Scar. That was a level 12 versus a 10. That's what I thought we'd actually see more of in the laning phase, but Skara kept his distance so well from Shifter's Kale that he's been able to keep his farm up, 171 to 140.
Yeah, significant farm score just in general for Skara, keeping that 10 per minute thing going on pretty strong. Coast grouped up for Dragon a little bit early, actually. They went down to the area, but it wasn't there, and now Dignitas have made the rotation in time. The Zion Spartan's top lane, this is an easy man advantage for Dignitas, and the reveal in 10, dude.
Don't try.
Yeah, don't go for it. Okay. Nice trying the piercing arrow. Not the same Q snipe we saw against TSM, but from Cloud9 earlier. But Coast now trying to hold on.
First Dragon for Dignitas. They got control over that. Because the game is a little bit later now, and Dragon scales based on the average champion level of the game, that was the most valuable Dragon thus far.
Yeah.
Even though Coast had picked up the first 2, and it just extends this Dignitas lead here. They're pretty much, at least, they have different mindsets. Kiwi Kid and Crumbs are the ones going around looking for all the kills, and they're just enabling Skara and Cruiser the Bruiser to farm so far in the lane, and it's working quite well.
It is, yeah, exactly. They're doing a really good job of all this one. And Tendu kind of taking some farm for himself, but he's actually well behind Crumbs. And Crumbs, by the way, very offensive focus. I don't know if we touched on this yet, but Elder Lizard Brutalizer for the jungle Wukong. That is a damage jungler.
It absolutely is, and he's definitely trying to snowball ahead a little bit in this game, trying to parlay those early advantages. The Lizard Elder will help him clear the jungle much faster, but specifically, just for physical damage champions, it is much better than it used to be. Let's see how fast he can get down Wiz Fusion.
Well, he's been knocked up into the air. The Wall of Pain does land as well. The flash from Wiz Fusion trying to get him out. There's the Lantern. He's going to survive. Nice pickup there. Crumbs forced to run away.
Yeah, he didn't actually get his Wukong Q, the crushing blow, down before he popped his Cyclone, which hurt his damage substantially. He was so worried about Wiz Fusion getting out of range and wouldn't get the knockup for the ultimate that he popped it early. We would have seen the true damage of his damage Wukong if he pulled off his combo properly.
Nice, but it's going to be the red buff, though, still stolen away by Dignitas for their jungle control. And just the fact that they're kind of winning the mid game right here, red buff on Crumbs. Nice and happy. Zion and Cruiser still battling in this top lane. I want to see this continue to move on. It's just a 10 minion kill sort of switch between the two.
Yeah, still a bit of a farm off in that top lane. Zion is hoping to get to a point where he can get his Infinity Edge done and then make some team fight moves. There's not too many things for him to chain off of knockup-wise as far as Yasuo is. Yes, Thresh has a couple of ways of knocking people up, but outside of that, he basically has to do it for himself, which isn't the type of Yasuo synergy we've been seeing other teams go for.
That's true, but I guess it fits the Coast style, though, because they're all about Zion split pushing. That's like their #1 strategy is Zion. What do you want to play this game? Okay, carry us, please. Of course, they've added Shifter, who's an amazingly skilled mid laner as well, so some more threats on the team. But yeah, it's definitely a different style. It's not the like crazy engage comps we've seen from Yasuo's before.
I think one of the reasons that Coast looks so lackluster in this game is, especially during the NACL, they played a very conservative early game and then allowed Shifter to roam and make plays for them in the mid game. That requires their lanes to not lose badly, though. Once they lost control of their own jungle, whenever they would go and try and make a rotation, Kiwi Kid would go and cut them off. And past that, Coast doesn't really have many other game plans. So since Shifter's been shut down, you can see 0, 0, and 0. It just means the team doesn't generate kills because he is the one that generally makes things happen.
Well, that's true, and we'll see if they can do anything with this. Of course, Kale and heck, Yasuo, both for what that's worth, do scale very nicely into late game.
Extremely nicely.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not Karthus nicely. I feel like that's actually a pretty contentious, like, who's the better late game mage.
Ooh, you know what? There is a blue elixir on Scar right now, right after he completed his death cap. So he is as strong as he is going to get relative to the rest of the game at this moment once he consumes that blue elixir. They're going to try and force around this Baron area, knowing that Shifter's trying to go and farm. This thing would die really fast. Coast cannot take this for granted.
They're not going to get there in time, I don't think. They know about it. They're running across the map, but it's already down to half HP. Look at this thing drop right down. Jinx and Karthus, he's actually going to burn through a bunch of his mana pool, but that's going to go down. Baron Nashor picked up by Team Dignitas. Coast see that, and they're like, oh, crud.
Yeah, that was a... They made a boo-boo. Let's see if they can come back from this one. It just means not only are they down 8,000 gold, they now have to contend with all the gold value from that Baron buff. And Dignitas didn't have to burn any ultimates for that, so they are completely free to dive if they want on this one. The big thing is if Cruiser can get the turret on him, it means they can pull off a successful dive. Let's see if Dig wants to go for it.
Let's see what they do. They're sitting there in front of the minion wave. Next one coming up in about 15 seconds. Coast completely grouped in this mid lane. They know exactly what this game is. PewDiePie happy to even tank turret shots, even if it's a backdoor bonus because he has Baron regen. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. So they're completely fine taking this poke, and look at them just retaliating some of it. I wonder if they're just going to try and push this straight up to the inhibitor. At some point, Coast is going to have to try and stop this one. The Coast wave clear is trying as best it can to get through that. They have the Varus and the Kale. It's not spectacular wave clear, which is why you can see Dig getting some of that damage down. Here it comes.
They pull on a Scar, but Kiwi gets one who engages Zion Spartan, getting the Kale ulti and intended running away. Can they get the damage up? But Elise falls. Wukong gets traded back on Scara, still has Requiem though. This is not good for Wiz Fusion. One's gonna go down, Daydreaming, not in a good spot. Will he get dropped? Nah, yes, PewDiePie taking him out. Shifter the only man alive. 4-for-1 inhibitor controlled by Dignitas.
The team fight danger of a Jinx with a lot of kills, just chasing down even more from that. It was the best time for Dignitas to push. All the timings worked out just right for them. As soon as Scara got his death cap, they got the Baron. Everything just worked out, and the dive was easy.
Very easy for these guys. Talisman of Ascension also was completed for Kiwi Kid to help push that team in. The Dragon's even up in 10 seconds. You can see the team running over to that side of the map as well. Everything looking great for Dignitas. Now 12-2 with a killed inhibitor, and they're just ready for the Dragon on the respawn. These guys are firing on point right now.
Yeah, an extremely stark difference to what we saw earlier when Dignitas played TSM. Or even when Dignitas played CLG yesterday. They looked lackluster. They didn't really look like they had a purpose. Their lanes were losing. And in this game, they have roamed around so well. They've been very decisive with their initiations. And they've looked like just a completely different team.
Yeah, an absolutely great team right there with champions that seemed pretty comfortable for them. I think, remember, a lot of our bans were focused on the mid lane, so everyone else got to play what they wanted. Dignitas Rush picked their bottom lane. KiwiKid got to make a lot of plays on Annie because of it, and it was them finding a good early game plan. I think that was a big part. Crumbs and KiwiKid looked very comfortable.
The jungle Wukong has worked out quite well. You can see 2 and 9, and 2 and 9 on KiwiKid as well. It was kind of a dynamic duo of Annie Wukong. Is he going Volcano Wukong, or is it just the normal boring Wukong? Nah, he's not. He's doing like the Jade Dynasty Wukong.
Yeah, that's actually my favorite Wukong skin.
You don't like the Volcano Wukong?
I mean, it's cool and all, but I usually like the newest one.
Okay.
Just as like a general thing. I'm like an anti-hipster.
I was actually going to just say that. Good work.
You can if you want.
Too late now, freak. All right, so Dignitas actually has 5 people grouped up and ready to go. They miraculously still have some Baron buff left because they were so quick acting on that last Baron. Even when their Baron falls, I feel like they should still feel safe going for another turret dive. Because the distortion boots were bought by KiwiKid, he'll actually have his flash initiation up in about 45 seconds. So without Baron, I actually think they could go on the next flash tiggers.
Well, let's see. They've got 2 waves then until that happens. The inhib turret taking some attacks right there. I'm a cutie pie, happy to shoot that thing with his rocket launcher. Fishbones is its name. And we'll see what they go for this one. Not javelins, cleavers. They're like javelins, but they hurt more.
No.
Depends on how much
Javelins
AP you
hurt way
have.
more.
Depends on the AP. With Cruiser's build, I would rather have cleavers and javelins.
Well, yeah, if you build Randwinds and Sunfire in Italy.
Just saying. All right. All right, there we go. The siege going to continue. Baron buff no longer here, but the flash
Almost up.
almost up.
Got a couple seconds. Let's see. It's got 5 seconds left. So this initiation, they would want to get KiwiKid to drop the Tibbers, and they want it, in the perfect world, get the turret onto Cruiser the Bruiser's Mundo because he's 232 armor, the whole crap load of regen. Yeah. Last time it got on Crumbs, and he actually died since he's a very squishy Wukong. But they don't seem like they have any qualms about going in here. They're posturing themselves very aggressively.
Well, here we go. Cruiser going to go in, and nope, it's actually, I'm a cutie pie pull dagger, but the turret's dead, so here we go. Nintendo dropped dangerously low, and control over the inhibitor is here. Coast haven't even engaged on this one. They gave up the inhibitor just for kind of receiving mean looks about this.
Yeah.
They backed out.
2 out of 3 inhibitors now down for Dignitas. They might want to shop before cycling down for the third, since Skara and Cruiser are a little bit low, but it really just depends on how confident they are feeling as a team right now. They've actually spent a decent amount of their gold. They're sitting on about 4,000 or 5,000, which would still give them about a 10,000 gold lead, which might be why they're still sticking around.
Well, there we go. The minions swept away. They did look for the rotation on the minion wave there. About 25 minions in that pool, but they didn't get it here. Mid lane inhib should be coming back up, and there it is, actually. Dignitas going to stay for this one.
Yeah, well, may as well. If Coast gave up the last one, they might want to give up this one, but they land a Cocoon. There's a fight!
Skara dangerously low. He drops there without getting to do anything there. The fight comes in. Look at the engagement. Fusion trying to survive. He does survive for now, but Cutie Pie finds him. 1 for 1 so far in this fight. Now will Coast push them out of the base? Not before losing their inhibitor.
Pretty good catch by Coast in that fight, but it just clearly wasn't enough. A lot of damage got dumped into that Kayle intervention.
Yeah.
But as a team, Coast just wasn't able to re-engage. Running through the Karthus is something they can't really do. Zion Spartan, especially without an Infinity Edge, can't go in and do any type of meaningful damage onto I'm a Cutie Pie. He'll go in once. I feel like KiwiKid will just stun him, and then that Infinity Edge, I'm a Cutie Pie would finish him off. So we can just see the nice combo here. They chained double CCs into Skara and then blew him up from range. And at that point, they wanted to just run away as best as possible, which they did pretty well. They had pretty good disengage because they're pretty much all range champions. It did mean they had to abandon their inhibitor, though.
Yeah, and you talked about sort of Coast being unable to chase them as well. You mentioned that there's no real knock-up synergy here for Zion Spartan. I haven't seen him ult almost at all this game, and certainly not as a re-engage tool here. So
yeah.
Unfortunately, Zion's been sort of sitting there auto-attacking. Finally finished an Infinity Edge, so that's done for him. But a much less frightening Yasuo from what we've seen in some of the games in the LCS so far.
Yeah, this is definitely not Yasuo's day.
No.
He's 0-2 so far. This Baron is too fast for Coast to even consider trying to stop. I do think Dignitas has played a much better game this time. Surprisingly, like the last 3 games of the day here have been very one-sided.
Yeah.
We had very competitive games, I feel like, in the first day, but here they've been, you know, totally
decisive.
different. Yeah, incredibly decisive.
Fairly clean.
Yep.
I feel like good decision making. They're not getting too aggressive with dives. Remember, EG actually like didn't have anyone die for like the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I feel like the 3rd kill from CLG was like minute 12 or so.
This one 13-3 as well. It's a surprising champion select to work out for Dignitas because normally teams have been so paranoid about what to do in the early game. And especially Dignitas has had issues falling behind in the early game. If I think back to when Dignitas was a very strong team in North America, which I think was in the start of Season 3, they were doing it with, you know, Xin Zhao and Diana and Kiwi Kid on stuff like Elise in the top lane and Draven from AmaQTPie, even Graves, just like these early game champions that would just dominate lanes. And then because Dignitas was so far ahead, they would just kind of push all the lanes and win because they were ahead.
Yeah.
And then when they stopped being able to win the early game, they kind of stopped being a dominant team. They started losing a lot.
Yeah.
Which is weird how they picked the Karthus and the Mundo, but then still win the early game. It was kind of just a miraculous performance by Kiwi Kid to get them through that early game and make plays happen. Because the team comp wasn't actually speaking to an early game domination, but they dominated the early game anyway, and we're seeing the results of that. Here's a fight.
Here we go, the rocket comes across, and there's the knock-up on the 2. Zion Spartan just barely getting away, but then still dies. Looks like everyone else forced to run so low on the health bars here. Of course, Scar has already Requiemed, but it's enough to get them into the base. 3 members already dead. Sorry, 2 already dead for Coast, and Dignitas just completely in control. They're going to take the win at about 31 minutes in and put themselves on the scoreboard.
Scar giving him the claps that he loves to do after every victory. We haven't seen those claps for a while.
Yeah.
They lost 2 Battle of the Atlantic games, 2 games at the start of the season, and finally they have a dominating victory over Coast. 15 kills to 3. Scar played very well on his trademark Karthus.
Yeah, completely did a great job in his lane. It's weird to say won his lane when he didn't kill anyone, but when you're Karthus and you get 50 minion kills without dying, yeah, you won your lane as Karthus right there. Scar putting up a great performance. Everyone else doing a good job, and Kiwi Kid especially I gotta talk about because converted support player from the top lane. Got a lot of flack actually for his top lane play at the end of the season. Having to fill shoes with Patoy, who was one of the best support players we've seen in North America. And he was a key part of this victory here.
And it's funny because we had the feature early on about Kiwi Kid and AmaQTPie and how they kind of tango and dance together. Yet this game was all about Kiwi Kid just not being with AmaQTPie. And they both just kind of did their own thing, but it gave them all their roaming advantages.
Yeah, it's like, this is going to be a weird one. Kiwi Kid kind of walking across and asking someone else for the dance. And Crumbs did say yes.
Yeah, he did.
And to be fair, though, for QtPie, right, even though he was left alone without a dance partner, he danced by himself pretty happily.
I feel like he's the type of guy who
can dance by himself?
Who can dance quite well by himself.
Yeah, I believe it. He could put on a mean head banging. He's got the great hair for it.
I was hoping he'd do some like classical dancing.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Tango with himself.
Does that even work?
Probably not.
I feel like that's like by definition
Kiwi Kid
a
could
pair.
do it though. Or so, I mean, sorry, AmaQTPie.
I believe, yes.
Yeah.
If there's anything that could be done that's not supposed to be done, it's probably AmaQTPie. So Dignitas ending the day with a win. EG ending the win with a day as well.
The day with the win.
What? Oh, did I really just do that wrong?
Like twice in a row.
Oh my gosh.
That was really cool.
Ending the day with a win for both those teams, putting themselves back in the standings, of course. A lot of new things sort of coming through here. Right, Cloud9, I think they've played different things every single time. At least sort of different types of comps, I feel like, every single time so far in their 3 wins. XGG looking pretty good. TSM looking pretty good. These guys all started putting some wins together. Coast is kind of like the one team where I'm like, I feel like you guys had higher hopes coming into this one.
Yeah, Coast, definitely a disappointing start to their season. I had them ranked pretty high, and if I was to do power rankings, I thought they'd be maybe even the top half of the LCS so far.
Yeah.
Because they looked so good in the offseason.
Yeah.
Especially against the other challenger teams they were playing against.
Right.
But remember, they did take all 5 games to beat the Walking Dead. And it's kind of a weird stat to call back from because it really does depend on your opponent. But they were very close to not even making it in the LCS. The last team that took 5 games to get in the North American LCS was velocity, and they had the worst regular season record in LCS history. So I do feel like Coast needs to rebound a little bit.
And Coast, to me, has always been a team that actually started out super weak and then kind of came together at the very end. Now, in the summer split, they didn't. But spring split last year, they were bottom of the table for a long time and then made a run at the playoffs for top 2 at the end of spring split. And took TSM to 5 games when TSM was the best team in North America. And is it like is that what happens in the spring for Coast? Do they just do this and have a really rough start? I don't know. It's a statistic of 1.
Yeah, they need some consistency, first
do.
and foremost, because they've shown they're not a consistent or quality regular season team. If we look at their regular season finishes, they were 6th in the spring split of Season 3 and 7th in the summer split. And 0-2 so far. So if we think about it, I think that puts them at the bottom of the table after 2 days.
Yeah, it's got to. Pretty rough start for these guys, though. Of course, the other team that we had seen come through from the challenger scene and make it in is Curse, who had been dropped down, played also in the NACL. Had a worse record than Coast throughout the NACL, so we thought, okay, Coast is the stronger team here. And Curse have done actually phenomenally so far. They've put up some great results, some really interesting team comps as well, especially ones where they play off of their players' unique champion pools, like the Akali from Voyboy, things like that. And that's my new team to watch.
Yeah, Curse was actually Riv's pick when we did the predictions for who he thinks is going to be great in the LCS. You know what? It's turned out pretty well. Like you said, the crazy champion picks they have, they did not look that great in the offseason, but that's because they were hiding their stuff for most of it. And now that they're kind of bringing it out, Voyboy a little bit more time in the mid lane spot, getting more comfortable with everything. Could be working out for him in the long run, but we got a lot of league left to play.
We do have a lot to play, which is always awesome. I'm a fan of having more games to do and more going on. And, of course, later tonight we're going to have more games as well with the challenger scene going to be putting out some games. So I got to say I'm a big fan of all of the actions going on tonight, so stay tuned for all that. If I heard correctly, I believe we have the analyst desk who's ready to talk about some stuff. I actually misheard because you were talking at the same time.
Understand,
So, yes, we do have the analyst desk here ready for us here to give us a preview on what's going to be happening there on the Challenger.
Or do we?
Thank you very much, Freak. Indeed, we do have some Challenger Series matches to come up before we throw it back to you guys to end off the LCS part of the day and we start the Challenger Series part. Coming up, as we said, Xiaowei Xiao, the mid laner for LMQ, going up against MashMe on VVV Gaming Red. 2 very well-known names, and these guys are going to be putting up some steps in the game in just a few minutes here.
You're right. Our first match is what a lot of people are going to be tuning into for the Challenger Series because LMQ came over from China. They're going to take their shot at the North American scene here. A lot of hype around them. They've beaten plenty of LCS teams in the ranked 5s. Some things even like the other challenger teams stop queuing sometimes when LMQ are in queue for these ranked 5s because they're that scary. So everyone's excited to see them play. And then, of course, Don't Mash Me is on VVV Red now. So former LCS player looking to get back into the scene.
Absolutely. It's going to be a super amazing matchup. Next on that, we have the first in ranked 5s, Cognitive Forge. These guys are coming out as top seed, and they're going to be playing up against Why So Esports.
So this Cognitive Forge team, they're actually the #1 coming out of the ladder. LMQ, with all their hype, was #2. So the second match actually should be just as good.
Wait, how are we going to consider this, right? Because we know it's Xiaowei Xiao. We'll talk about the first game a little bit versus MashMe. We know MashMe is always known for kind of Twitch play, clean up the fight kind of play coming from AD carry. Xiaowei Xiao is known for his just all-over control of the map and what he can do for his team. So is an AD carry going to be able to stop a mid laner, which we've been seeing take control of most of the games in the LCS?
I don't think that Domashman would be using that Twitch just the way that the meta has switched, but that's a good
you
shout
won't have
out.
too many squishy people.
That's like an insight into his mentality, even as an AD carry. He likes to go in stealth, assassinate people late game. Xiaowei Xiao is a very, very solid mid laner. He's been prominent over in China for a while, and he's a similar style to maybe Old Froggen, I guess. He farms up quite a lot, very good in the CS department, and pretty versatile with that champion pool. Can play some safe things there.
Coming over, it's got to leave an unpredictable, you could even say taste in your mouth when you play a team like that. They're kind of organizing themselves to NA strats now, but they're also bringing over their strats that they have used completely throughout their entire time as being a team. So it's kind of a mind game in that aspect as well. How do you strategize against this team that can flip-flop between two regions?
I'm definitely a huge proponent of all the international teams coming on over. Since we don't have as many tournaments where these teams get to play, happy to have them fly over and play in ours.
All right, we're going to throw it back to the caster's desk with Freak and Chat there, joined by Crumbs to get a little bit of a breakdown on the last game.
Yes, indeed we are. Crumbs, welcome to the desk, man, and congrats, by the way, on a very good win right there.
Thanks. That was it looked like an easy win. Like, it really wasn't, because coming into this super week, you know, those first 2 games, personally, I didn't think that was a really good showing of the team that we can be. And that last one really showed what we've been practicing, the team synergy that we want to have. And that's what we've been working on. And those first 2 games, you know, some things happened in picks and bans in the actual beginning of the game that really threw us off, and we weren't on top of our game at all. So that's why they were so one-sided. And I think that this first game really allowed us to sink our stride into how we want to play the LCS. So it's really good feeling now to actually get back into it.
So let's start with this game right here that you guys just played. A lot of really interesting stuff coming through. Haven't seen Karthus a lot in the new season. Jungle Wukong, especially going Lizard Brutalizer, a whole bunch of damage.
Yeah.
Like, tell me about this team comp.
All right, well, the first thing is that this team comp is not something that we thought of ourselves. This is something that another team played it against us. And I'm not going to tell you what team it was because I want to keep their secrecy, but they played it against us, and we thought it was a great idea. So we copied it off them, and we tried it against us. And it worked great. You know, with Jinx and Wukong, you push so much faster than the Elise. So you saw they had 4 people down at the bottom turret the first one. With 4 people, they took the turret slower than we had it with 3. And it's just really fast pushing. And then when you have Annie on your team comp, you have such a strong engage. And with Wukong as well, you can follow it up really easily and do very high damage, especially when you go a Spirit Lizard, just all damage out build. And regarding that build was copied from solo queue mains. Like, there's a lot of solo queue guys that play jungle Wukong, and then that seems to be their build. So I was like, you know what? These guys clearly know Wukong better than I do. Okay. It's something that I want to pick up. I'll try it out, and I liked it, so I played with it.
Nice.
Yeah, everyone likes to talk about the 50 to 60 armored MR you can get just from your passive and the masteries on Wukong.
Yeah.
But Kiwi Kid, to me, made a lot of roam plays in that game. Can you talk to me what the communication was like, since he was all over the map, not just babysitting Amacutie Pie?
Okay, so with Kiwi, he has the stun all the time, right? So he's able to defend dives and provide dives easier than anybody else. For me as Wukong, I only have CC when I have my ultimate, which is not nearly as often as an Annie. So we had him go in certain lanes, like say defend with Mundo just to prevent him getting dove. So he was there to prevent dives happening, and then once we got some turrets, we're able to establish a lot of war control in their jungle, and we basically just have the global pressure of Karthus, and with my all damage build and high burst Annie, we're able to just burst down whoever we want at pretty much any time. And that's what we saw when they came to our red side, to their red jungle. We caught their bottom lane, just used all our ultimates, and just blew them up right there.
And how do you think Kiwi Kid is actually progressing as a player? He had kind of a rough season in the last split as a top laner, coming in as support. It's always weird seeing a converted role for a player. How do you think he's actually working with the team?
I think he's working well with the team, actually. And, you know, the reason why people really like this bottom lane is because it has the Kiwi Pie synergy that everyone talks about. They're always streaming and just playing a lot of games together. And they seem to really know each other. And, you know, sometimes they're struggling, but I think their struggle is just mostly regarding the fact that it's new. You know, it's a new role. You can't just hop into it and say, I'm going to play this competitively. It takes time. So as the season progresses, as we practice more and more in a more strict regimen, I think we're going to be able to do a lot more work regarding bottom lane synergy and just all-around plays that you saw with the synergy between, I guess, support, mid lane, and jungle.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like you guys are definitely looking up a whole bunch, but maybe talk to me a little bit about how Scar is kind of working through his stuff, because he's went back to something like Karthus. No one had played Karthus mid lane in a very long time, but he's had a successful go at it because that's kind of his core champion. Could we expect more of that from Scar, or is he going a different direction?
Absolutely. I think we should expect it from practically us and every team here. As you saw Curse, they pulled out a Kali mid, which is just a throwback to, what, 2 seasons ago, and then Karthus top lane. So this just shows that the current meta is not what it looks to be, which is just, say, Yasuo middle and then super tanks top and then these other supports that just are so conventional. You saw over in Europe, people are playing support Kennen and things like that. It just shows that at the current state, the game is in a really good place for playing whatever you want. You just have to be good at it and know its strengths, and everything's playable, everything's viable, and I absolutely love that about this new patch. So I think it creates a development in how teams think, that they have to worry more about what they want to play instead of thinking, oh, we need to counterpick. It's always, no, this is what we're going to play. They can play whatever they want to play, but this is what we think is good. And that just adds a new dimension to the game, which I absolutely love.
Well, it's good to hear. I like that you guys are trying out new stuff. I'm still a fan of the mid-Pantheon from the end of the summer split last time around.
Yeah, and almost all the teams that have tried new strategies this weekend have won with it. So it's good stuff.
Exactly. So we do actually have a replay of one of your guys' mid-game team fights around 22 minutes in, Crumbs. If you want to get us through that, we can get the replay up on your screen. So you guys are 8-1 in the game. Looks like you're siege in the mid lane. Walk us through what goes on here.
All right, so in this team fight, we have Annie with Flash and Wukong with Flash, our 2 engages. We're going to look for a wall just to get somebody. They get the Annie, Tibbers on 2 people. Then I go in as Wukong and then try to just get as many people with my ulti as possible. You notice I took tower aggro immediately. So I just knew I'm going to die right here. I already got all that I needed to do with my engage. And we just have the follow-up with the Karthus ulti. Before this, we're saying you don't need to overcommit for a dive. We have Karthus ulti to follow things up. We're struggling with tower pushes. All we need to do is get the tower, get them off, and just focus on the objectives. It's a game that we win by taking objectives, not with kills.
Yeah, and you guys got a 4-for-1 fight off it, even the same. So really awesome, both in the play calling and just sort of the understanding of, okay, here's how we're going to do it. Let's get the fight going on. I like the play calling there.
Thank you.
All right, so so tell me, like, you guys, you mentioned in the beginning of the interview, you guys had a really rough time in your first couple of games. What, like, went wrong there?
Well, you know, the first game we had against CLG, we were trying sort of a new dynamic as a team, right? We're putting myself as a main shot caller, which is basically everything I say goes, and you basically have to follow it up. So I'm being thrown into a relatively new position that I'm working on to just master.
Who had done the shot calling previously?
Previously, it was just everybody. Everybody had a say into what. So you're saying this, and then it used to just cause a lot of chaos, say in team fights or say a dragon, which happened many times at Baron. It'd be so many split calls. One says finish, one says go turn on them, and then it just. That's where the Dignitas throw on Baron happened, just because there was no decisiveness. Now that we have a decisiveness on it, we're able to actually prevent that from happening, and it goes a lot more smooth, I think. And just that first game, I felt like a little bit nervous, to be honest. I went 0-5, and that game, I watched the replay last night. I basically missed almost every cocoon. And I think that I have a tendency to just overcommit to making something happen. Instead of just letting the game flow as it should be, just take it slowly. And just that first game nerves just really got to me, and I just started going way too aggressive and not really thinking about the consequences of my actions. And I think that snowballed the game, because I don't blame it on my teammates at all for that game, because I felt like if I had played my regular game, they were all winning their lanes very well. And it was just my poor play that caused that defeat. And then the second game, well, flaws in our strategy and draft phase happen, and you know that's going to happen to you.
Sure.
That's something that we can just. That game was taken less harshly than the first one. Okay. And then the third one, we said, okay, look, this is what we had. We have to do this. This is what we practice. This is what we're going to do, and it worked beautifully.
All right. Well, Crumbs, thank you very much for your time, and of course, congratulations on your first win. Hopefully, the first of many this season. Now, guys, we've got more coming on, though. We got 5 down, but let's see how the standings are shaping up. Still holding first, we do have Cloud9 with 3 wins.
Yeah, in second place after a solid performance today is actually Voyboy and Curse. Then fan favorite Team Solo Mid sits in third with 2 wins and 1 loss. Then we have a 4-way tie for fourth with CLG, Evil Geniuses, Team Dignitas, and XDG.
And of course, in 8th place, unfortunately, is Team Coast 0 and 2. But be sure to tune in tomorrow. We bring you the rest of the coverage here from this week. Day 3 of Super Week will roll out with 5 more games. And that all kicks off with CLG versus Curse, followed by Dignitas taking on Cloud9.
And after that, Coast will look for a win against Evil Geniuses. And in our 4th game, we have TSM versus Curse, followed by XDG against Coast.
And, of course, all that action kicks off same time as it always is going to, Sunday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central European. Now that does it for the LCS, but remember to check out lolesports.com for the latest info, team stats, recaps, and videos.
Yeah, and while you're there, you can secure a spot in our live studio audience. Just click on the tickets link and you get all the details.
So for myself, Jat, and the entire live broadcast crew, teleprompter guy got me. No, I'm just kidding. Let's send it over to Kobe and Riv, though, for the NA Challenger Series.
Thank you very much, Freak. And we are here presenting you the first ever presentation of the Challenger Series here in North America. And we have 2 awesome games coming to you. Myself and Kobe going to bring you those in just a few minutes. We got a little bit of talking to do. I really like the fact of what we just saw, and I hope, or in the LCS, I should say, and I hope those picks, that variation, leads into Challenger, because we heard Jat and Freak saying you already get some crazy picks here.
I know. The LCS teams are showing a lot of varied strategies. And this game is actually going to be on North America Live server. So we will get to see some techniques that you guys at home can then take to your climb up the ranked ladder after the soft reset. Might be able to get some tips and tricks here.
All right, so tonight Kobe and I are going to be calling up 2 huge play-in matches. Now, these guys are going to be heading on to the quarterfinals if they can make it. Our first one coming up is going to be Zhao. Obviously, you know, an LMQ. They are a huge team coming in here. They're going to be going up against VVV Red. And, of course, you cannot forget Cognitive Forge. They are the #1 top-seeded team right now. They're going to be heading off against YSO Esports. And the winners of these matches are going to be jumping straight in to the round of 8. And we got to take a look at that bracket because it has been filled out quite a bit for these teams. In the top of the half of the bracket, it's the Walking Zed. You might remember from the spring promotion tournament, they were able to take Team Coast to 5 games. But that's, you know, Coast now in the LCS. That's pretty good, 5 games. That's going to be a team to be reckoned with. So here in Challenger Series, they'll play the winner of Sunday's Tint Gaming versus Skyline Battle in the first quarterfinal matchup.
The second quarterfinal matchup will actually be decided tonight as the winners of our 2 games will meet up Sunday, January 26th.
The bottom half of the bracket features 2 more spring promotion tournament participants. Determined Gaming will take on the winner of tomorrow's Curse Academy and no big deal matchup. As Jat said before, they're not taken lightly. While Cognitive Gaming will face off against VVV Gaming White. And for those of you still getting up to speed on the Challenger Series, all 8 teams that win their way into the quarterfinals earn cash and Challenger Series points.
And those Challenger Series points are what will determine who gets into the playoffs, with the top 3 teams in the playoffs earning a spot in the summer promotion tournament.
That's right. And as always, for all the information on the Challenger Series, including schedule, stats, splits, and more, much more, remember to head over to lolesports.com.
Just pull down that menu under Leagues and Tournaments and then choose the North American Challenger Series, and you're there.
So now you know what's on the line. Let's get to it. Our first Challenger Series match of the night is going to be LMQ versus VVV Gaming Red. Like we said, there's a trip to the quarterfinals, cash money, and Challenger Series points on the line. And like I said before, I'm super excited to see if the picks come out here to be a little bit different, a little bit unorthodox. With what's happened in the first 2 days, I'm calling this like generation comfort picks for League of Legends right now, because that's what we've seen.
And we talked about a little bit about Xiao, the solo laner here for LMQ.
Absolutely.
He plays a lot of different champions. Definitely Gragas and Orianna are in there. So some very versatile ones that you can play into anything. And they could easily be first picking that and save their later picks for other positions.
And I love that we may see some Ori here. A lot of champions that haven't been getting picked. My favorites, and they've been seeing the bench. I don't like it. I'm getting the curse-esque.
All these melee AD carries are taking her glory, huh? You're not having it?
Not having it. Or you could just get blocked. At least you can't block Windwall, right?
Yeah. Well, he's not going to be in the game here. We got the
we already
ban
got
down
him
on
banned out.
Yasuo and Ziggs. So Ziggs, the late game wave clear and sieging game.
Yeah.
Not really going to be a part here. A little part of me is glad because it's not that fun to watch the building destruction and the constant wave clearing. More like to look for the kills.
We'll see if Nidalee going to be left in here. I'll see if any poke comps are going to be coming out. Kassadin being taken out. A lot of Kassadin, Kha'Zix, and I guess you could say Teemo. A little too much map pressure from these type of champions, and you always see him banned out. Ty is getting Kha'Zix banned out against him all the time.
Yeah, the roaming potential. A Kha'Zix that does get ahead early. We saw in the EG game, Pabelter was able to have a really, really wide sphere of influence from that mid lane with his Kha'Zix, just tearing people apart. If you get it ahead early, that quickly, then you can roam around and use that vision control to assassinate people.
This is interesting that VVV, well, they haven't locked it in, but if they decide to choose jungler, because they don't have to, they've already seen Elise has been picked for that first tier, first wanted pick on the side of LMQ, so they're safe to kind of get the support they want, get the mid, not mid, you're not going to show that now, but get what they want.
And Elise is always a very safe pick. My advice to a lot of like solo queue junglers is you need to learn Elise and Vi at least right now. It's a really they're really good tools for just climbing up the solo queue ladder, and it doesn't really give away anything about your team composition if you first pick that Elise, just because she's such an all-around good champion.
Well, then you go ahead and you pick your top lane, and it might be locked in. The Gragas does come out, though, so even though that Ziggs is out, we still get the siege potential. That's going to be coming in on VVV's side as they pick him up. We'll see what Cheese can do with him in the middle lane. And we're still just hovering on the side of LMQ. It does look like they want the Renekton. It's going to be good just for a top lane, safe lane there. They're not looking to really show too much of a composition. It's just a strong combo.
Renekton has been a favorite in China for a long time.
Easy to say. So, you can dive. You can dive past those turrets that aren't there.
He's another champion that you could be very confident blind picking. Because Renekton doesn't really have bad early game matchups. Even against the super popular picks right now, he does really well. I do want to note, though, that they took away the Gragas from Xiao very early on. I like that move from VVV.
Got to do that. It's kind of like, not kind of like, it's like focusing out Hotshot. You know that guy's going to be a problem if you give him these certain champions. You have to take it out. There's always going to be a few of those direct combat bans towards your best players on the team, and that's why they get that role. Still looking at the Ezreal. Actually got to see him last game, bringing back the safe play. Like I said, the versatility.
Classic, don't mash me.
Versatility, yeah, classic, don't mash me. That's absolutely correct to bring that out.
So it's going to be paired, whatever, if he does lock it in, it'll be paired with that Annie, which is so popular right now, seeing how high her roaming potential is to make plays not only in the lane but also elsewhere. If he can get free, if the Ezreal gets to the point where he can be safe in that lane and farm by himself, that would free up a tremendous amount of playmaking ability here and get a roaming Annie around and just cause havoc all over.
I like the Leona pick if it happens against Gragas. You can always solar flare that person that gets caught out by the explosive cask. Kind of give him a little bit of safety, a little bit of peel if he needs it for everybody diving in on him. And please lock that in. I'd love to see some Orianna play, especially with this somewhat dive composition. For, not somewhat, now that they may lock in Leona, there's 3 people going in.
So we always look for ball delivery systems too when we see the Orianna pick here. Renekton's decent at it. His slice and dice, though, the first one's pretty short. You really want to get through a minion or through a champion in order to get the second one. Then it could be used as a pretty good engage. But besides that, it's going to be that long range Leona catching people out. So that'll be the main thing to start up these fights for LMQ. And by the way, that's pretty much what they're looking like. They want to have nice team fights, so they're going to be looking for that dragon control.
Yeah, it's going to be a slow game at the turrets, at the dragon. Everybody has a little bit of poke, a little bit of zone control to do there, more so on the side of Gragas, but you don't want to center it on an Ori ult either, so it's going to be pretty good for these teams. The lanes don't look like anybody's going to have a definitive win. If the 2v1 happens, who do you give it to?
I mean, 2v1 versus, Renekton is just an all-around good champion, but Mundo, he does have a little bit of extra regen, and a lot of them have been running teleport.
Right.
So if he's able to take a bunch of harass and then teleport back into the lane after his first trip home, then he can last a little bit longer. We'll have to see if it's actually going to go to that top lane, though. And
you can see they actually go and reconsider the Vi pick. It probably was going to be in there, but they hovered at second, realized they didn't need to pick it, and gave themselves a better champion select just from top to bottom by leaving that out and getting what they wanted. Something to note as well as Global Presence is making a comeback. We've seen Pantheons today, and now we got an Ezreal coming in.
So Ezreal, yeah, I mean, the True Shot Barrage, that counts as global, I guess. But really, both of these teams are looking for the team fights here because Mundo isn't running that teleport. He does have the option, but he wants the combat summoner of Ignite to go up against Renekton, who's a beast in those early levels. If you also give up your combat summoner, going against Renekton becomes extremely difficult. So I can understand where he's coming from here. Doesn't want to run the teleport.
And we actually see that B-Sin on Mundo had Ignite for himself as well, so that could be a back and forth fight lane. As the teams load into the Rift, let's break down how these guys won their way into tonight's matchup, starting with the second-seeded LMQ.
So LMQ, like we said, is a Chinese team, and they're the former sister squad of Royal Club, who were pretty famous, showed up at the Worlds last year, and they decided to try their hand at the North American scene. We talked about they came over. They were the second best team to come out of the ranked challengers. We already talked about the next coming up match has the #1, and they also have some things to prove here.
Yeah, they do. They showed super well. They proved they were the #2 seed. They were able to decimate Tempest in 31 minutes. So with these strengths coming out, we'll see if we can see some today.
And those strengths were the AD carry, Vasily. He dominated his lane in that game with 11 kills, 8 assists, and 1 death on Lucian. And then their mid laner, Xiaowei Xiao, also had an amazing game. He got Kassadin.
Not this game, though.
That's a very rare champion for anybody to get, but he got the Kassadin, and he went 7-1-6 in that game. It's not surprising because, you know, he has been a top-level mid laner in China for quite a while now. And some interesting facts are, you know, I compared him to Froggen a little bit. He's got basically the second place record for hitting that 300 minion mark. In the LPL, it's first place because Froggen never played there. So he got to 300 minions in just over 23 minutes. And his unofficial time of 23:30 would put him right behind Froggen as far as the world records are concerned.
All the records. On the other side of the rift tonight, starting in the red corner, is the appropriately named VVV Gaming Red.
All right, and the VVV Gaming Red, this is going to be their first game in the Challenger Series because they won their game yesterday by forfeit against Team 8.
Right.
And the fans of the LCS will recognize one of the faces we talked about. Don't Mash Me is in the lineup. He's the former AD carry of Coast.
He is. Actually, speaking of AD carries, if just like looking through players and looking through what the Challenger teams had, there was an LMQ TC Tabe, and everybody's like, whoa, it's this AD carry's awesome. Thanks, Cutie Pie, for making a troll account and being LMQ TC Tabe. So like, everybody would look at that and be like, wow, is he really? Did he decide to come over here? Because everybody else was, so it was a perfect time to do a Cutie Pie troll.
There's a couple of people changing their names, so like Zhao WX and Wei Zhao and all these different variations trying to troll. But this is indeed Xiaowei Xiao, different from Wei Zhao, who's the popular AD carry over there. So everybody getting confused. It'll all work out in the end.
It'll all absolutely work out in the end. So we know that Wei Zhao, or Xiaowei Zhao in mid lane, he did get his Orianna, didn't get Kassadin. Gragos is actually taken out and taken on the side of Cheese, so we'll have to see how he plays against that. I've heard that it is true that Gragas kind of pokes Ori around for a bit, but it's always hard to hit those ultis when you can body slam.
Yeah, I mean, Ori pretty good, you know, in most matchups. He's one of those champions that can fend for herself. You know, she can play aggressive versus some people, but she can also go really defensively and just hold on to CS.
It's one thing I like about her kit.
Yeah.
Like you need a few more in your shield, you go a few more in shield. Something like you can do with Lee Sin in the jungle. We actually saw that when Inox took it, he went W in the top lane real hard and then tried to roam a lot. So different styles coming out all over the place. It's been a different split than most.
I know, just starting out. We've got Warwicks.
2 days in. How many champions
We've got Teemos. We've got everything popping down. I mean,
I almost forgot the Teemo. Come on, why'd you bring it back up?
Yeah, you want to erase that from your memory? The games, they do get kind of painful to watch because the entire team is scared to move around the map because there's mushrooms everywhere.
Suffocating is like my favorite word coming out of this weekend.
We'll get off of that, though. There's no Teemo here. This is going to be a pretty clean game between two very strong team fight-oriented compositions. So really it's going to come down to the individual play, I think. And that'll be great for the Challenger match because people are watching Challenger for those little take-home things that they can use to get closer to Challenger themselves.
And to make it into the round of 8 for these guys is a different weight to take on, but definitely one off of their back. They have new teams to look at. They've made it past that second step, and they can focus on, you know, maybe something new, maybe something that will take them even faster to the win.
I mean, I still like that fact about the LMQ. Whenever they're in ranked, it takes them a long time to find a game because a lot of other people will stop queuing against them because they don't want their ratings to drop. Just coming into this tournament with that kind of reputation, it's got to be a little scary, even for Don't Mash Me, who's already played in the LCS.
I wonder when you get a chance against these teams. You remember back to like PAX Prime with CLG versus Legion, when Legion drag it out to like 75 minutes, and the primary cause was to figure out how CLG was beating them so much.
So just start thinking about the next game and just
absolutely. You take that time, stall it out, be like, we'll give you, you know, tire you out, and try to get more momentum behind your team in the game, because a lot of it does come down to mind games. A lot of it comes down to if you actually go on tilt a little bit, most people can't come back from that. That's what we were talking about earlier, where the silence comes in and the communication drops for a team, and it becomes chaos.
And especially since we are playing this one live, there's a couple other factors they have to deal with, pauses and stuff like that. And this is actually the live patch that was very recently came out. So all the adjustments, you need to make those adjustments quickly. It just kind of reinforces the value that League of Legends puts on flexibility. That's pretty much what you're rewarded for most in this game, is being able to adapt quickly. So we'll have to see if these teams have been able to adapt already to the new patch.
If they've been watching Cloud9, they seem to have a pretty good handle on it, how to go from patch to patch. Everybody thought that would be their kind of downfall, but it seems that teams that can just adapt faster are the ones to make it. It's not that you still have a good team fight. It's you actually have to change up your style of play. It's been pretty crazy. Looking at what has happened throughout all the splits, it's interesting to see now with one of the tankiest metas or most mobile metas we've had right now, that all the comfort picks are coming back, like I said earlier. All the Karthuses that could get wiped out, they're being played a little differently. Scar didn't go to the bottom lane. They stayed in the mid. So there's still things that can be mixed up for these teams.
What would be your comfort pick if you had to go play sub into this game?
Into this game?
What would be your comfort pick,
Oh, man. Probably Ori.
Probably Ori. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
You go
I
right
would say
LMQ.
Kennen, but then like level 8, and you're not going to kill anybody. You just get kicked out of the fight, or somebody's going to push you out.
I like the Ori call here because, I mean, it does work with their team. It looks like they're going to have some early dragon fights in the future here as soon as they do get their game rolling.
What about you?
My comfort pick?
For this game?
For this game, I would take the place of that Vi. I love
that
Vi so much. Probably my favorite champion. I mean, Amumu's always got a place in my heart, but Vi is just so much fun to play. The feeling that you get actually hitting people in the face with that champion, it actually kind of translates, and you get a little excited.
I don't think Mumu would get you to the second highest ELO in Riot as you are right now, but pretty impressive. Good plays.
Wow. Nice shout
out.
So
almost getting into the game here. LMQ versus VVV Gaming Red. Myself and Kobe to bring you 2 of the Challenger Series matchups tonight. And as I said before, this is the premiere of the Challenger Series here in North America. We've been doing EU the past couple days, and we are going to be on to the Rift, Kobe. This is going to be one hell of a matchup. We see Xiaowei Zhao taking the mid lane. Mash Me as on 80 carry for the names if you haven't been too familiar with these teams. Those are your guys to lock on to.
All right, we have made it into the match, and it looks like a Targon start for Leona. I do really like this pickup, by the way, just because you can shove the lane super early with the execute from that item. The first 2 minions going down is a huge help in these dual lane fights that have really become so centered around the early level 2 and the early aggression. Especially when you have these champions like Leona who can make you pay for that early.
The BM begins already. I like the mana pop by here, and obviously the fast charge off Fountain coming from Rockblood. Gets that charged up right fast. Looks like he will want to use it in lane and chug that potion to keep going aggressive.
Yeah, he's going full combat here with the Doran shield start on Annie. A little bit less aggressive than the Doran ring because it's you're going to have a less power, but you will be able to take more hits.
We've only really seen that in Korea right now.
Yeah,
right?
when Leona lands her combo on you, you'll be happy that you've got that shield.
And we'll see if Rockblood really itemizes for that Leona too. I wouldn't be surprised if LMQ tries to take advantage of that early level 2.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to shout out is the early trinkets. I'm definitely a huge fan of the 5 ward trinket start. But we do have 1 sweeper on LMQ coming out already. The reason I like the 5 wards, trinket wards, instead of having the sweeper early is because your early sweeper, the only wards you are going to be clearing out are other trinket wards. That only last 1 minute anyway, so it's kind of hard to find those in the first place. And if you guess wrong, then you're kind of wasted your trinket there. And I would much rather start out with a ward trinket and then switch early. Over to that sweeper, maybe my second back or something like that.
And don't you always kind of point out that the wards die when the junglers are kind of getting ready to come out of the jungle as well? So
I mean, look at that aggression down bottom, not even level 2.
Rockblood eats the cookie, but he doesn't eat the mana pot, doesn't eat it just yet. He is going on his biscuit, and he is very, very low. It's not even level 2 for these guys. LMQ is going hard in that bottom lane.
Right, level 2 coming up in a couple more minions. Annie is having to recall already. Pretty happy that she has that shield. Was taking a beating to the face.
That is still absolutely not good for these guys. That means that they will not have synergy at level 6 unless they're somehow left alone or able to get kills there.
And it looks like Zhao Zhao is going pretty aggressive here early with the Ori, trying to get as many auto attacks off to harass as well as the command attack and dissonance for the early damage chunks. Getting him on Gragas, forcing him to chug some of those potions that he has, burn his way through that flask.
You know, I do actually, and haven't considered this before, like the matchup of Annie versus Lucian because you can kind of walk Tibbers in front of a culling during the fight, block pretty much all that damage.
Yeah, I mean, it does hurt Tibbers quite a lot, and you'll get 50 gold for the Tibbers.
Bing, bang, boom.
I guess everybody wins there.
You find Tibbers, and the other guy gets gold. Annie's happy, so is your opponent. 4.7 gold in the pocket of all teams. They're dividing that evenly. Good guy teams. B-Sin in the top lane, but not really. It's Mundo.
He comes over to wave high there
Yeah,
by making a little pit stop, drops off the trinket ward in the tri-bush to just protect the Mundo here. And as expected, Renekton, with the slight early lead, does get to sort of bully the lane real early.
Oh, using
Flashing.
the minions. Very nice. The Frenzy's on, and the Cocoon misses, but they do grab Cheese Beluga's Flash.
Traded it for the Elise Flash, and he's still chasing here. Vaisho's in the mid, though, so he dissuades him from any further pursuit.
Why is this happening in the bottom lane? Mashmi's up 18 to 12 here. He's pushing back. Annie just got to lane. LMQ played that super passive after Annie left.
Yeah, I mean, they were up at the turret and didn't decide to go for their dive here. There's a lot of CS that's at their turret now.
Yeah,
so
I guess it works.
The CS discrepancy, not quite so bad as it looks, plus that Targons that we talked about means Leona took a couple extra creeps and shared the gold with Lucian. We're also going to have to keep an eye out whenever you do have that Targons. You want to try and get your charges. Ooh, little aggression.
Cheese Beluga was actually playing that one a little bit more aggressive and staying to the side of the minions. That's kind of almost a tell with anybody that needs to get around minions to attack, like an Ahri trying to charm.
Definitely one of the biggest things, as a jungler especially, is you want the laners that you're ganking for not to give your gank away. If they're behind and they're playing pretty aggressive, then you should be tipped off here. Your opponent's probably not just being playing bad. You get a lot from respecting your opponent. And you have to think that they're coming in with a gank.
Ooh, we got a very nice full vault breaker on that one. Now the Cocoon. How do you split the uprights when they're that close together? The Ignite's there. No Name does get a good repel back onto Porpoise Pops. And he's able to take it.
So they trade kills. First Blood does go down, though, for VVV. A little missed Cocoon there. A little bit rough. End up taking him out anyways, though, so not too big of a trade.
And there's actually a good bit of action everywhere. You may not see the HP bars falling, but Mashmi's already came back, chugged the mana potion, still has his health there. And these guys keep buying those consumables to go back to lane and really stay in the face of LMQ.
Yeah, a lot of mana potions coming out.
Yeah, even LMQ's buying.
Yeah, Vasily, he's definitely doing pretty well, though. Even though they did back off after the early aggression, he's using that lead, and the Leona shared charges from her Targons means that he's got a hefty purse.
Still very early in this matchup. Nobody's grabbed too much of a definitive lead. Still seeing that, you know, even that Rockblood got pressured back at level 1 and left the lane. Mashmi and them are still kind of holding them to the turret. Like you said, Relic Shield helping out and still keeping Vasily up on those minions.
Yeah, something to note about that bottom lane. You can see how the feel of this lane has kind of changed, and that's because Annie does not have her stun anymore. When Annie's got that particle that tips you off, her stun is up. That's when LMQ play a bit further back, and you can see them let it go into their turrets. And then after Annie uses her stun, they move up again, and they take the power position. They let Leona get her charges off for the extra shared gold, and they start looking for the aggression there that could come from a Leona combo.
This is that spot you were talking about, the Fog of War just next to the wall turret, or the turret wall, I should say. And it looks like Porpoise Pops is forced out of that situation. He will not be able to bring anything to the table just yet, but the junglers are trying to make an impact. At least Vi is. She's been to the top lane. They've been mid, but they're just not finding anything yet.
Yeah, they did find each other once up in the top lane.
Yeah.
He traded those kills, but since then he's looking to get up to level 6 because Vi, that's where your power really spikes here. And since they already burned Xiaowei Xiao's flash, a visit back to mid would really do wonders here for Cheese Beluga to get him back in the game.
He's going to be calling for that one as Ignite's coming back up. If it is going to happen, it'll happen soon. You see this mirrored purchasing as well. Cheese Beluga actually went for consumables over, really, we see the Doran's Ring start, and a very nice defense there, but it did look like they were trying to set something up off those summoner spells.
Right, Vi came in there, not level 6 though. She needed to clear another camp, so it was a reactionary ult from Cheese Beluga. If Vi was level 6, they might have been able to pursue a bit further and try to make LMQ pay for that aggression.
Quick mobility boots actually coming out for No Name in the jungle on Elise.
So he can definitely get around and make more ganks off. He wants to be able to out-gank this Vi. It's already post-6 though, so Vi's next gank is going to be so much more potent.
So what do we see about Mashmi actually? Now we have another Ezreal. He's going for Triforce. This is kind of causing Vasily. We see more BF swords, or Bloodthirsters than Triforce on Lucian lately.
Yeah, you know, both of them rushing for the Triforce means they'll kind of have the same power curve. Lucian does have more early game power in the lane,
right?
Though,
Little
so
bully.
He just inherently has more bully potential. The Trinity Force on Ezreal, a little bit of a callback here for Don't Mash Me. It just means that his outright damage isn't going to be there for a bit.
Xiaowei Xiao, now with that blue buff, able to use W a little bit more in lane. It's pretty mana intensive for Ori if you try to always use that, so he's more comfort in pressuring that. But get a little roam by Cheese Beluga here. This could be bad to coming in for LMQ.
All right, he walks through this Tribush ward, but since a cleaver doesn't land, you know, there's probably won't be any pursuit.
Right. They actually turned back around. They were like, yeah, we're ready. We'll bait this fight in and take the kills.
Now he might get pinched in his own jungle, though.
Now he's 6. He took those camps that were necessary, and he's trying to get back out. He in the mid lane, you're right. Cheese Beluga getting a little pop there, but they keep it safe in the bottom. Oh, nice job. Taking that away. A little cheeky steal. Nothing came out of the bottom lane either, so not as much wasted time, but they're just not getting much out of their transitions here.
It's an interesting choice by Elise to camp top,
yeah,
because it does leave open this bottom lane for Annie to set up a level 6 Vi gank, which would be amazing for them to turn that around because they need to make something happen as the top turret's falling and they start heading over towards this dragon that's been pre-warded by LMQ.
And something we didn't notice actually is that Mundo did not, or I did, that he did not take Ignite. He had that champion select, switched to Teleport, and he did not use it to get back to lane there either. So saving face, knows his team is going to be grabbing Dragon, just goes ahead and guards that second turret.
Yeah, he was able to change that summoner in the last seconds when we couldn't see champion anymore. So he's got the Teleport just in case you want to go for the dragon there. That's why I think they made this call. Okay, so that's a really good call by LMQ. They go to the source of the global. They know that they'll just trade the dragon for this top turret objective because they wouldn't want to fight the dragon anyway. They're down a teleport spell.
Mash me. Every little bit of extra gold that they have, they're putting into potions. And why not, right? You're going to be sustained in lane. You're going to be able to stay a little bit longer. But still, 0 kills in these bottom lanes for as much as they've really been in each other's face. It's kind of like a gentleman's agreement just to farm down here. And we have 6s. They're just not ulting.
At level 6, that agreement goes out the window. Both teams are looking for the first CC to land.
Just
so
that
they
opening.
Combo. Yeah,
Where
exactly.
is it?
Annie's just going to hold on to this stun for as long as possible because they really need it. If Leona's able to land anything,
I give LMQ
it could easily change
man points if they go in first because you know they're going to eat a Tibber. They want to see that Tibber miss and then go in. Looks like we are going to get a little bit of help here. It's not going to be from No Name. He's backing on the side of LMQ, but Porpoise Pops is in position for this.
Now, I love these really deep wards by LMQ. It's not... Oh, I think it just died there to see Vi come down. They've got the side bush warded here, but it was just pinged out by VVV. So it's going to be hard to pull this off, but they have the CC for it.
The wards in this top lane, or the top side of the jungle, Obviously not seeing Elise up there anymore, or not seeing Vi, I should say. Elise heads down towards the bottom lane. So LMQ is doing a very good job of, if you will, moving off the ball and figuring out what they need to do before it happens. Oh, and they have Ori. Go figure.
Race number 2 in the bag for Xiao Xiao.
Definitely keeping the factor in mind that to always get more, you'll do better. Sometimes you sit back and you're like, all right, I have some. I'll be fine. But he's 137 to 95 in that lane.
Ackerman, you could see he was waiting for that ward check. Renekton, another one of the champions, with the auto attack reset, is able to get those away. Actually, it's the 2 swings there from the W. Able to eat through wards. Even though he did have to use up his fury for that, it was definitely worth it.
You know, we talk about Chinese teams being aggressive, loving that dive. Not so much of a dive. Oh, wait a minute. Going in hard on this mid lane. It's going to be a rotation from Rockblood in the bottom lane. Tibbers really only providing AoE damage now. Wei Zhao very well shielding off a lot of that damage. True Shout Barrage passes by the tail end of both No Name and Wei Zhao.
Now, he did miss the shockwave there at the end, but he flashed the Annie's Tibber.
Right.
The Annie Tibber. So that was a really good initial escape from him. And then I guess they ended up 50 gold ahead, killing Tibbers, taking him down.
So good. And before that fight happened, I was pointing out, you know, the aggressive play of these Chinese teammates. Ackerman, Tiamat, first item on Renekton.
Very aggressive Renekton build. It does help him shove even better against Mundo, so he can continue sort of his reign of terror in the top lane. Now popping his ultimate just to be able to claim this red buff. And he does get it because he blocks the Mundo cleaver.
He put on ulti? Oh, he's going to follow him? Oh, Vi's coming around the side. Porpoise Pops is down to the left. They don't have the words to say that's happening. Oh, he hesitation. No, don't hesitate. He's the red buff. He's just going to transfer it back. Wait, he has enough time to run to his team. Flash over. Oh, the slice is almost enough for the dice. And now it's B-Sin. He can't safeguard. He can't strike out of this one. Coming over from the side, he does go down. It looked like he went like negative and then came back, but he goes down in the end. Wei Zhao trying to come in with No Name here. There's a lot of, I think, miscommunication slash I've helped you, you need to get out.
Well, those mobility boots on Elise just paid off right there.
Yeah.
Barely arrived in time so that they were able to answer that kill. And Ackerman stealing away the red might have been a little too much because he lost his life for it. But then, since his team is able to answer, you can call worth it in the end.
And this is just continuously in the mind of Wei Zhao right now. I have to farm if I'm going by a camp. 162 coming in at 15 minutes. He's been hitting 10 a minute, so he's good to go.
I talked about that mentality in the beginning, comparing him to the old Froggen style. He loves just hard farming his lane and taking the small jungle camps that are around, like the Wraith camp. We've seen him already fight 2 times with Cheese Beluga over those Wraiths. He really is stacking up a giant CS lead.
A CS lead and a needlessly large Rod already, on top of the Athenes that mirrors Cheese Beluga.
Pretty much they're doing amazingly in CS all around, actually. They've got the winning lanes in all 3 cases here. Not only does Lucian have more CS than Ezreal, but he's also got the shared money from Leona that she's been giving him with her Targons.
Really a longer laning phase than I thought we would see. Nobody's trying to press us into the fights, especially around a dragon maybe that comes up in 44 seconds. We may finally see Gragas' ult come into effect here, as well as the Annie and the Ezreal ulti. They can get the AoEs down. They'll be all right.
Now that was an interesting play because he was waiting for the Ezreal to face check that rush and did not throw out the cocoon.
No, but he still wants to take a bit of damage to try and bait in. Porpoise Pops.
The ward baits.
All the ways. Is it worth your life?
So yeah, the reason that we kind of just have a standard game here where most of the action is created by junglers is because both of these teams sort of made their team fight picks in Champion Select, and the Dragon's been down. So there wasn't really a nice point that they could start a fight off until now.
I like the leveling by Xiao in middle as well, going for full dissonance first before he gets all the levels in queue. Oh, Ackerman a little too far forward. Take the turret. Somebody get the turret. Ackerman goes down, but they pull that back. No, he
doesn't.
What?
He's alive.
How does this happen? Oh, wow, that missed him too. I need glasses because I think he died, but he didn't die.
He's a god. All right. He's a god. Let's keep your eyes on this Renekton
He's
here
tanking
because
the
he's
turret
so
right now.
deep. Yeah, let's zoom in on that. He's right between the Vi and
Dominus.
Okay, so he's got the tiny bit of extra health.
The
and
shield!
the shield! He went down to 6 life. Now here comes the True Shot Barrage, just barely whiffs. The shield, I think that threw you off because it was all white and gray.
Well, no, yeah, because it would have been the health that
Exactly.
took him to negative 400. Or it would have been that low, but damn. I am so glad. Like I said, I hope we were excited in these games, and it is already putting us on the edge of our seat. But that's 200 CS now to Wei Zhao in the mid.
And that wasn't even with a completed Hydra. He didn't have the AoE lifesteal there. That's just
that was his lifesteal.
Regular Tiamat, and he's built super tanky. Gotten so much early magic-resistant armor. Surviving with that last shield from Xiao Wei Xiao.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty speechless.
He's a god.
That was awesome.
There you go.
Let's look at the AD carries right now, because we did talk about Mash Me a little bit. He's finished the Triforce, and I have to consider that past that Triforce and the Scepter, there's still a big chunk of change in the hands of Vasily right now. So Lucian and Leona winning that bottom lane, I'd say, as they come out. But like we said before, Kobe, they're winning every lane.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why we haven't seen a whole lot of Ezreal picks lately.
Yeah.
A lot of his laning phase really depends on those skill shots. If you just miss even a couple, then he does get a little bit behind there. Lucian, meanwhile, very much a lane bully, even with the adjustments to those blinding lights for his Q.
So seeing this, wouldn't we consider that VVV has to break this laning phase now, being down in each one? They got to put their powers together.
Yeah, they need to find a pick-off here with the Gragas, but look at the wards that have been dropped down by LMQ. They're doing an amazing job of roaming into the VVV territory with all of their wards ready after they've taken control of this bottom side map. No middle turret and no bottom outer turret means that they want to claim the blue side for their own, because Gragas without a blue is much less of a problem. You can't continuously wave clear like Ziggs.
They're not just winning, they're definitely keeping VVV from having any openings of coming back. So they're multitasking the fact that they're doing well with still adapting to everything VVV is trying to do. Like you said, the wards coming out, doing very well, and they're able to get initiations like this. B-Sin getting caught out.
The ground control used right there on the Mundo. He will not go where he pleases. He will not pass go. He will go straight to the fountain. And it's just a very standard game being played here from LMQ. They win all of their lanes. Then they insert their influence into the blue side jungle so they control the blue buff as well as the dragon with their team fighting composition here. It's pretty much the standard plan for them to finish it out. And then they pick off a kill because of their amazing vision. And it's okay if they stack all their CC because they're taking down the main tank here, the Mundo.
Right, and that kind of confused me for a second because I figured he'd be in the top lane. He has teleport for when they need him. Dragon's already down. I don't know. I think they're kind of putting themselves in a bad spot right now, but they are trying to come back from lost lanes all around. Got to give it to LMQ right now for playing so damn well in this game. Wards all across the river keep them safe if they have to kite out of anything, and they're already starting to get offensive wards deep in VVV's jungle.
You see that? There's so many wards that Cheese Beluga, even though he could see them, he doesn't have the time to get off enough auto attacks to clear them out.
They have sweeper swapped. They got 3 sweepers on the team. The sweeper swap from the trinkets. Nice. They're going to try to get themselves back in this one, but there is such an amount of gold that they're working against, along with items. Those are core items. The Rabadons being finished up. Ori ultimates are going to be absolutely detrimental to their health bars now, and they don't have enough time to start building magic resistance even.
This Ackerman build is really interesting to me, with the early rush to Tiamat and then going straight for defensive stats there. Not even health, just going for the resistances because they work so well with his ulti. It's going to be really hard for him to take all this damage if they decide to Vi-ult.
There he is onto Ackerman. He's not going to have that sustain. No, he gets up to half, so he can charge it back a little bit with that rage, but I don't think it's going to be enough. It does take 3 to take him down, though, and when 3 are taking it down, you look around the map, and that's just VVV trying to get a bit of gold. They don't have the minions in position to push anything else. and this is just them trying to gain ground in a long stairwell.
Pretty funny answer because LMQ just used everything they had on the VVV top laner. So they answer back and say, yes, we can do that too. We'll take down your Renekton.
Side lanes not pushed too well. You can see that it's slowed down LMQ. They know they need to formulate a little bit of off-the-ball play before they can go back to their mid lane pushing. And we see that the lanes stretched out now. I'm saying VVV needed to get out of those lanes. That's slowing down LMQ a little bit too.
Yeah, VVV are in a tight spot here because LMQ did that all the work winning all 3 lanes. It's very hard for them to choose a direction to go to. Porpoise Pops kind of has to make the choice. Which lane does he want to salvage? Which lane has the biggest opportunity for carrying here? And wasn't really able to get much. I mean, Mundo was able to survive there with 2 kills, but if they just have a tanky Mundo running around in the back and not any damage to output while he's running around, then they won't be able to actually win any of the team fights with LMQ. And LMQ can just continue to take dragon after dragon and increase the gold lead until they're at the point where they want to dive.
For all that's happened and how far LMQ is ahead on the other side of the map with kills and whatnot, it's only an 8,000 gold lead, and that still stands to be quite big at 23 minutes. But it's not anything that, I should say, it's something that VVV can come back from. If they hold out, they do have a team that'll scale pretty well in these fights.
They also, I mean, VVV, they do have a chance because they're going for the Talisman of Ascension. They could have that speed boost, and that's what you need to catch somebody out. They've got a Gragas, an Annie, and a Vi. I mean, if they get into a position where they find a few members of LMQ separated from the rest of their team, then they can definitely make a play on that. The only problem for them is that LMQ are not separating. They're coming in S5, and as 5, they definitely trump this VVV team as far as raw team fighting power is concerned. Very hard for them to defend this turret.
Thought they would have dove a little bit, but there's a Gragas there. They're playing it smart. And an Annie. Just thinking of the old who LMQ is and what their play style is. But they do see that turret, and they're hatching a ward right now. Moore is actually sitting on top of that. Let's see what the poke doesn't actually do too much. You do get the cask out, but that's only going to allow LMQ to play a little bit safer here.
Use the Gragas out there to try and spread out the team and clear the wave at the same time. But old Vasily on the side, continually auto-attacking the turret, able to take it down. Did he grab that with the ult?
No, he didn't. Not too close on that. Did go to Orianna, so Xiao Wei Zhao is going to be able to facilitate his team with about 1.83 seconds of ball movement now that he has a level 5 and that blue buff on. It's actually ridiculous. It talked about dancing earlier, and that's what it's like when you play Orianna. That's why she's so fun, because you dance with her.
And I really like how his build is going now. He's gone for so much damage. After the Athenes, straight into the 2 giant AP damage items. The Death Cap plus Void Staff combo is just the ridiculous spike that you would want on any mage. His shockwaves are going to be destroying multiple people.
The shockwaves can be followed up,
or Tibbers, as we saw earlier. He just killed straight Tibbers.
We haven't seen Rockblood do too much flash initiating. He's kind of been towards the back. A lot of cheesed Beluga's ultimates have been defensive Gragas ultimates, and we haven't seen them try to do a fight on their terms yet.
Well, I mean, their options are so limited now.
Not much is on their terms.
Yeah, since they don't have the vision, even in their own jungle, it's very hard for them to switch over and clear it out.
Yeah.
Yes, they have 3 sweepers, but it's so dangerous for them to go that deep in their own jungle because LMQ are sticking as 5 members, and they're challenging every ward kill. Ward kills take so long just to get off here that they're not even allowing VVV the time to get those auto attacks in.
And the game always gets so much harder when the opposing team now owns both sides of the map. 5 turrets taken down for LMQ. They look right now at the top 2nd tier turrets down to half health. And it looks like they're going to stay here for the long haul until this goes down.
So VVV, in the comeback at a turret, if they can get a Gragas ultimate to knock one of these members forward and 4 of them back, then they can use that Annie combo to kill whoever's knocked forward and just hold. I don't think that they're even going to be able to pursue a team fight. Whoa! After that, he's gone.
Oh, he gets the shockwave double man, but it's also the duo solar flare, and they're going to come into that fight very easy. When you think you're safe, you got to watch out for the Ori ball. Very well placed by Wei Zhao.
That Death Cap Void Staff combo that we talked about, definitely paying off right there for Xiao Xiao. he just annihilated Gragas.
And that is going to make LMQ feel a lot better, knowing they can do that instantly to the health bars of the other carries. They're feeling a little bit more confident. We may see, think more tower dives maybe.
Wow, looks like they're just going to go force a Baron right now. Even with no inhibitor down, those 2 kills are enough. Orianna doing her best to zone, but she's by herself.
Should still be all right. Getting the shield down. Wei Zhao plays it smart with the flash to get
Baron
out of that
low.
one. Very low. Mashmi's on the other side. Oh, that Q almost hit, actually. You see the Baron health. It's down to about 1,000. The smite goes to No Name. Will the chase beyond? Oh, he gets into it. He activates the Tiamat. Throws down a bunch of damage as he gets the Call the Meek in there as well. And it looks like he will try to possibly lock down Rockblood, but he does not want to go in seeing the rest of the team.
Yeah, they definitely want to take that win and go back to base to purchase, because they just got a huge advantage here. And if they go back to base and get their items with this Baron buff, then there's not much of a response from VVV. But if they kept chasing, being already down their Renekton ultimate, then that would be one small way that there would be a chance for VVV.
So let's look again at the AD carries. Mashmi following up on the same build. Maybe not because, obviously, Vasily is doing it. He's just building his way. But 2 different style AD carries, same build.
I feel like it works better for Lucian.
I'm going to go ahead with you.
Because Lucian here, the way he's building really a mobile build here.
Right.
Because Gragas has the opportunity to split up the team, and then Vi's going to be able to single him out. That's pretty much all he's worried about, is being separated from his team and then Vi ultied. So he's got these offensive items that provide a lot of utility for him, so he can make his own escapes even if he does get separated and caught out. He can activate that Blade of the Ruin King as soon as he's out of the CC and make use of the speed buff to separate himself and get out alive.
Working off the lanes, knowing they have mid pushed up. They're going to head towards the bottom lane. Really got to look back and figure out how LMQ has done all this. We talked about No Name, Porpoise Pops, and everybody in the top lane when they hit Ackerman and B-Sin. That really went in favor of LMQ, and they've kind of capitalized off that the entire game. It's not something we've really seen up until even this year, the split for us in NA, as everybody's a lot more definitive once they're getting the ball rolling.
Yeah, I mean, I did really like the early game moves from No Name, but it's so easy as a jungler. When all your lanes are winning, you just you feel like a kid in a candy store. You have all the options in front of you. You can either go to one of your winning lanes to counter gank, or, if the other jungler doesn't show up, then you can just dive right there. And you can also have the option of going for invades, because the other jungler is not going to have the support of the laners. Whereas, you've got this Renekton up top who's been shoving in Mundo and went with the Tiamat just so he can keep that up and shove all the way to the secondary turret. And then you've got your mid laner there farming like a beast, taking every single Wraith camp on both sides.
Yeah.
It's just very, very hard to do it.
350 CS in 30 minutes. Looks like LMQ destined and really ready to make it into that round of 8. They seem like a powerful team.
It deserved the hype, maybe?
Yes.
I believe they did. I mean, just from the laning phase, I'd have to say these guys definitely deserve it.
It was very strong. They weren't challenged, but they also didn't lay back at all once they started to get a lead. We just talked about that. Now with Baron surrounding them, they have about 1 minute left on that exactly. So we'll see Baron in 4 minutes, but this next minute is just VVV really trying to hold on tight.
We'll have to see if LMQ actually decide to go for a dive. Gragas is doing a really good job clearing out these waves, but every time he does, it's after Vasily has gotten a couple shots onto the turret. And Vasily can get those double shots after proccing his regular attack, or his ability, so they're easily chipping away at these. Oh, there it is!
They're trying to get onto Ackerman. You can actually see B-Sin coming off the fountain, just bought that red elixir. So these guys know they need to make an impact in this fight.
They actually missed a shockwave there again. So Xiao, another whiffed shockwave. They still, though, they've got an ace in up their sleeves with the Leona ultimate.
Right.
That is pretty much all that they need to actually go in for a team fight. So they're sticking around this turret. They got it down to half, and they're going to continue the pressure even without shockwave.
That's something that LMQ has been doing all game. They go for what they want. They never kind of turn back and second guess it. Now onto the inhibitor with every member of VVV in their face. They are not deterred here. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, there you go.
There you go. One more hit.
Ackerman not finding himself in too bad of a spot. The ball's right next to him for the shield, and they are going to dive in on this one. There goes the culling, and it's going to pass everybody, but hits Porpoise Pops just in the end, and it looks like it's Ackerman. No, not Ackerman. Wei Xiao getting a kill for himself with Vasily as they back out to reassess the fight. They're not going very far.
Nope, they've got waves up top, and they already did some damage to this middle turret, so they're going to be able to make a clean sweep of this base, it looks like.
One more inhibitor turret in their favor. That's going to make it
Ackerman
8
real low.
all together. Oh, cheesy. Trying to get into this one, but it's not going to be enough. He gets himself out. So the cask is down for now, but they're doing what they can. At least they're taking chances.
You're going to have to take a lot more chances here because LMQ definitely...
Or at least make the chances count.
Yeah, they look like the next visit into the base, they're probably going to have a pretty good time because it's an exposed inhibitor, and LMQ already won the team fight with a turret standing. So exposed inhibitor, they should make really quick work of that one. And then the double inhibs down, a double super minion wave is going to be enough for them to probably push in on those Nexus turrets.
Hydra finished up recently by Ackerman. Still pretty interesting build coming in. And we see, what is this, 4-0-4, and Wei Xiao has bought himself a Sheen.
Yes, so that's a fairly rare build on Orianna. Her passive does give her auto attacks extra power, but I feel like he's going to show off a little bit here. Just how good his mechanics are, that he can weave in the auto attacks with all of the Ori skill activations, because Ori is one of those champions that, hey, if you're gonna do it, like, her spells are such low cooldown, you can get continuous Sheen activations, and then if you upgrade that into a Lichbane, you're basically just adding in another AP scaling to your champion and making Orianna just a beastly late game scaler.
Beeson throwing on the ultimate. There's no real ignite on him. No, there is ignite on him right now, but it's not going to be too effective. Ackerman is in the front of the fight. They're able to take down Porpoise. That's quite a bit of the crowd control. They're slowing it down. They see Cheesy. They're just able to focus everyone out.
So that was a flash cocoon whiff on the standing still target there. But they're able to finish this one off flawlessly. Wow, LMQ definitely deserving the hype.
A strong play by LMQ. Wei Xiao with Orianna in the mid lane, helping to carry his team 5-0-6 with the rest of the help. All the lanes winning and sending LMQ to the round of 8.
Impressive play, I have to say.
Absolutely.
And now we realize why a lot of the other challenger teams would dodge them, stop queuing when they got into the ranked queue.
But how do you get better, right? You got to play against those teams.
Don't be scared. Competition, strong competition. That's the only way that
it's
you're
one of the best
better.
comments on Reddit right now is everybody's asking when to play ranked. Do it now. Just do it. It's the best time. It's not going to be better later. It's not going to be better 5 minutes ago.
No.
You can go back 5 minutes.
Just aim for the top.
Aim for the top. Just like LMQ did, a very definitive win over VVV Gaming Red. And it's really, I guess, something we expected. A lot of people expected these to be a definitive game from LMQ, but will they be able to carry it out in the round of 8?
I mean, I feel confident putting my vote behind them. I feel bad for VVV and Don't Mash Me, but, you know, Don't Mash Me didn't really get to make any plays in that game.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if coming in for the win, we haven't seen much Ezreal. He hasn't been known as one of the top carriers, and we kind of talked about that. It's not handicapping yourself, but it's not putting you in a position to completely win your lane by picking Ezreal.
Yeah, and the fact that they went with that Leona, with the Targons, able to get the early shove in. I mean, Vasily is also just an exceptional AD carry himself, so hard competition there. Maybe Don't Mash Me will learn something, and next time around they can come back bigger and better. I mean, I expect big things, better things from this VV team. I think they've got a good future.
So let's talk a little bit about in the top lane. We had Ackerman build it out on the Tiamat first. He kind of locked it in. Ackerman was pretty aggressive. Usually we see everybody going for defense. Why did the Tiamat work for him at first?
I really like the play from him because he's playing to Renekton's strengths, and he's kind of building to extend those strengths. You know, usually Renekton has the upper hand in the early levels, and then if you get the Tiamat, you can continually shove up that wave. And he also had ward coverage, so he was drawing a lot of extra resources of VVV up towards him. The fact that all three lanes were winning at the same time for LMQ is really kind of what allowed him to do that. So if all your lanes are pushing, then it's much easier for you to go aggressive like that and build the Tiamat and get that extra AoE damage and then switch over to building tanky afterwards.
And for just VVV altogether on the other side, and I know this is quite a conditional question, but when do you start to group? When you lose 2 turrets, when you know all the lanes are losing by 20 CS and there's no turrets down, when do you have to make that call to stop a snowball or get back in?
Well, I mean, with the way these teams were set up here, with both of them kind of team fighting compositions, they did need to make use of picking somebody off. So you want to run to whatever side of the map you have more vision on, and kind of hope for to make something happen there. Because, like I said, it's such a hard choice just to put all on the jungler. If all of your lanes are losing, putting it all on Porpoise Pops to decide, okay, I'm going to go here, try and get you back in the game. Because if he makes the wrong choice and the other jungler is there, he's going to lose by default since his lane is weaker.
All right, we'll have to see. We have more games to go. We got to take a quick break, but when we return, the top-seeded Cognitive Forge battles Why So Esports with a spot in the quarterfinals on the line. The 2014 North American Challenger Series. We'll be right back. Don't touch that browser.